NASA was faced with a huge decision. When Michael returned, should they send up another astronaut, David Wolf, to replace him?
There were lots of questions about whether we should send Dave to the Mir or not. And then the question came down to, should we send anybody at all?
It was a dilemma. If NASA pulled out, they would risk losing Russia's knowledge and cooperation in the ISS, because without America's cash, Mir might have to be scrapped.
All right, John, tell me, much closer to home, the news on Mir.
Awful news, Jim. This is really bad stuff. NASA was ordered by a congressman to put its own inspector general to work to look at how things really are on Mir, talk to all the Americans who've lived there, found out that for a period of several weeks, temperature never got below 96 degrees on the Russian space station. Found out from Shannon Lucid, the woman who is always all smiles, that conditions on there, because of bad air quality, too much carbon dioxide in the air, people were making stupid mistakes, probably including that wreck. Could have been caused by too much carbon dioxide pollution in the air on board the space station. And the Inspector General of NASA is telling the administrator maybe he shouldn't send astronauts up there to live anymore. Maybe send the shuttle up to supply Mir with stuff, you know, equipment, but don't let Americans stay on there anymore. No response officially from NASA, probably won't be till next week, but there's some people in the U.S. Congress who are saying, let's stop this before somebody gets killed.
That's important news. We're going to have to watch and follow that story.
Yep.
CNN John Holloman, thanks much for being with us.
Constant malfunctions on the Russian space station Mir make NASA officials very nervous. On September 28th, the U.S. shuttle Atlantis is scheduled to dock with Mir, and the Americans are concerned that the Russian station won't be ready for that. But Russian space officials are expressing their full confidence in Mir.
Today we can say that everything functions according to the standards. Everything depends on the Americans. Mir is ready for docking.
Many Americans don't understand how Mir is still flying. For them, it's another Russian mystery. In the meantime, cosmonauts Anatoly Solovyov and Pavel Vinogradov and U.S. astronaut Michael Fall are fixing the latest computer failure.
The solar orientation is stable now. We are now waiting for Mir to send us telemetric data to see if all our systems are working properly. Then the gyrodynes will be cranked up.
On Monday, a U.S. satellite zipped within 500 meters of Mir. But Viktor Blagov said the station wasn't in danger.
3 clumps of metal passed by the station. When one object got closer than 1.5 kilometers to Mir, we asked the cosmonauts to go into the escape capsule.
Russian space officials say that this happens on a regular basis and is not linked with Mir's computer failure. This report was prepared by ORT Russia for the CNN World Report.
Is the Mir space station just too dangerous for U.S. astronauts? This week, a House science panel said yes and urged NASA not to send anyone else to Mir. But the space agency and its astronauts say the risks are within reason. John Zarella reports.
We should all be concerned as Americans.
The question members of Congress wanted answered was clear.
Are you sending, as we continue this mission, our astronauts on a suicide mission?
No, ma'am.
Frank Culbertson, NASA's manager for the Shuttle Mir program, faced grueling questioning at a House Science Committee hearing called in the wake of repeated mechanical and technical failures on board the Russian space station. Culbertson was grilled about just how risky it is for U.S. astronauts on board.
I take the lives of my friends very seriously and would never send anyone in Phase 1 to do anything I have not done myself or would not do in the future.
Culbertson was backed up by well-timed statements from the astronaut now on Mir and the one going up next.
This cooperation of America with Russia, which is not always easy, we are achieving some extremely great things.
I think that it's easy to be good partners when things are going smooth. This is the time, in fact, to show just what great partners we can be. That'll take us a long way on our next International Space Station.
The hearing came a week before the scheduled launch of the Shuttle Atlantis. Its mission, rendezvous with Mir, pick up astronaut Mike Foale, and drop off astronaut David Wolf. Committee Chairman James Sensenbrenner says Wolf should not be sent without an assurance from NASA Administrator Dan Golden.
It seems to me that there is enough doubt to force NASA and Administrator Golden in particular to review this issue before David Wolf comes up.
At this point, NASA says it will fly the mission as scheduled, but review the decision on September 23rd, 2 days before liftoff. The committee members promised further hearings, while NASA promised Mir is safe. John Zarella, CNN, reporting.
Heute ist wieder mal ausgefallen, der Hauptcomputer der Weltraumstation. Und nun sorgen sich nicht zuletzt die Abgeordneten im US-Kongress, die Mir sei eine besonders perfide Art von russischem Roulette, geiferten manche. Die NASA müsse wenigstens die Flüge von amerikanischen Astronauten zu der Russenruine stoppen. Aus Moskau, Frank Höfling.
Das ist unser wichtigstes Werkzeug bei der Reparatur des Computers, erklärt Bordkommandant Solovjow etwas hilflos. Mit dem gewaltigen Schraubenzieher können die 3 Kosmonauten gerade mal die Platinen des Hauptcomputers tauschen. Messgeräte oder wenigstens etwas zierlichere Werkzeuge gibt es nicht. Bleibt die Ferndiagnose von der Bodenstation und die fällt verheerend aus. Die Computer halten gerade mal eine Woche durch, dann gibt es neue Überraschungen wie diese. Mit anderen Worten, die fast 20 Jahre alten Rechner der Raumstation sind am Ende. Und ob das US-Shuttle Atlantis am Sonntag neue Computer ins All befördern kann, ist noch offen. Denn ohne intakten Mir-Rechner kann die Fähre nicht andocken. Trotz der Pan-Serie wollen die Amerikaner aber weiter Astronauten auf die russische Weltraumruine schicken. US-Vizepräsident Gore bekräftigte das heute in Moskau. Grund bleiben die Westastronauten aus, droht die russische Beteiligung an der neuen internationalen Raumstation Alpha, hier eine Computersimulation, zu scheitern. Das von Moskau beigesteuerte Zentralmodul ist bereits im Bau und das Geld für die Fertigstellung wollen die klammen Russen über die Mir-Untervermietung an den Westen verdienen. Im Gegenzug, so ein NASA-Sprecher, gibt es Know-how, seit heute einmal mehr, vor allem in Sachen Krisenmanagement.
The United States is getting the space shuttle Atlantis ready for a Thursday launch and eventual link-up with the Russian Mir space station. Besides bringing another U.S. astronaut to join the Mir crew, Atlantis is bringing a new computer. It comes as Russia's Mission Control reports they are about to reboot Mir's main computer. It had another breakdown earlier, and that's not all, as CNN's Moscow bureau chief Jill Doherty reports.
Another Monday, another Mir malfunction. For the 3rd week in a row, the main computer aboard the Russian space station shut down. Then the fan on the air purifying system broke. And if that wasn't enough, the crew noticed a strange brown cloud of bubbles outside the station. This past weekend, the crew joked they could fix the computer with a screwdriver. But back in Moscow, the Mir's latest troubles were no laughing matter. They came just as the 2 senior officials responsible for space cooperation, U.S. Vice President Al Gore and Russian Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin, began their twice-yearly meeting. The issue already is super sensitive, with some in the U.S. Congress calling for Washington to pull out of the Mir program. The Prime Minister insisted the Americans won't quit.
I actually think we are exaggerating all these failures and malfunctions. These have always existed. Such is life. This is normal. Well, of course, it's not quite normal.
The vice president, in an off-camera briefing with reporters, said NASA is reviewing problems aboard Mir. A U.S. shuttle is scheduled to dock with the Mir later this week, and he said the decision to proceed with that docking will depend solely on safety considerations. The shuttle is to bring a new U.S. astronaut as well as a new computer for Mir. Officials say that delivery should solve the problem.
If the fixed computer will last for a week, we'll be satisfied. The shuttle will at long last bring us a new computer, which we'll probably have to install during the joint flight of the 2 crews. That shouldn't be a problem because it's the shuttle which controls the orientation of both stations while they're docked.
This time, the Mir crew replaced some parts and got the old computer ready for rebooting. But NASA still has to determine whether it's safe enough for another U.S. astronaut to join the Mir. Jill Doherty, CNN, Moscow.
The space station suffered its latest problems Monday when its main computer broke down again. But But the crew completed repairs Tuesday using parts already aboard the solar-powered space station. Atlantis was scheduled to lift off Thursday with astronaut David Wolf. NASA is reviewing whether it's safe to put another astronaut on Mir. The announcement of NASA's plans was made in Moscow, where U.S. Vice President Al Gore has been meeting with Russian Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin. The two men are talking not only about their mutual problems in space, but also about some shared problems on Earth. CNN's Moscow bureau chief Jill Doherty reports.
Wrapping up the 9th session of the Gore-Chernomyrdin Commission, the two leaders announced a new deal that will end the production of weapons-grade plutonium. 3 Russian nuclear reactors will be converted to civilian use by the end of the decade. But Vice President Gore and Prime Minister Viktor Chernomyrdin refused to give details on some disturbing news. New facts uncovered by a joint U.S.-Russian commission investigating Iran's nuclear program.
It is obvious that there is a vigorous effort by Iran to obtain the technologies that it needs to build a ballistic missile and to build nuclear weapons.
Top Russian and U.S. space officials spent hours discussing the future of the troubled Mir program. But the vice president said there's no decision yet on whether the shuttle will leave another U.S. astronaut on the station this week.
That decision has not yet been made. The review by NASA is still underway on an intensive basis.
The Prime Minister said the Mir program will continue and took a swipe at the media.
I think that the U.S. journalists should also go up there and perhaps see what are the plus sides and what are the deficiencies.
The Gore visit to Moscow had a lot of the trappings of a presidential visit, from a photo op walk downtown with wife Tipper to a visit with the feisty Russian President Boris Yeltsin.
You look terrific.
So I'm ready not only to fight with the Americans, but to develop cooperation with them. I mean, fight with them on the diplomatic level.
From Moscow, Gore travels to the Samara region, a thriving economic zone on the Volga River, to promote a new regional development program. Gore and Chernomyrdin have been meeting twice a year for more than 4 years, but this one was different. A way for Al Gore, a likely presidential candidate 3 years from now, to show how he can handle a major diplomatic mission. Jill Doherty, CNN, Moscow.
Angesichts der Pannenserie will US-Vizepräsident Al Gore die endgültige Entscheidung über den Start der Raumfähre Atlantis zu Mir von 2 Gutachten abhängig machen. Der Start ist für die Nacht zu Freitag geplant.
Well, the major problems on board the space station Mir are being felt here on Earth, specifically in the United States, where the space shuttle Atlanta is scheduled to go up on Thursday to retrieve astronaut Mike Foale. Well, CNN space correspondent John Holliman's here to tell us more about that. John?
Riz, I'll tell you, it's a big decision for the head person at NASA, Daniel Goldin. He was over in Russia up until about this time yesterday afternoon with Vice President Gore as he tried to figure out for himself how committed the Russians are to a safe Mir space station. Goldin is now back in the United States. He's probably just waking up now. He went to bed about 7-8 hours ago after a long transatlantic flight, and he's going to be meeting with NASA safety experts, outside experts that he hired to look at Mir, to see if David Wolf is going to get to stay on the Mir space station. And he's got what could potentially be a tough decision to make.
Now, the American public surely are starting to worry about the guy, sending one of our guys up there now. That pressure must be building.
I think there's that pressure on one side. There are some members of the House Science Committee who grilled NASA officials last week, suggesting that it would really be foolish to send an American to Mir. The Russians are putting pressure on the other side, saying you've got to continue this program. It's good for us. It's good for you. I'll tell you, we've got an expert on the phone who has been to Mir, and we've had him in this chair in the past couple of weeks, former astronaut Norm Thagard. Norm, Dan Goldin's going to be getting a lot of advice today from a lot of people saying, let the astronaut go to Mir, don't let him stay on Mir. If you were in a position to offer advice to Dan Goldin, what would your advice be?
My advice, John, would be to go ahead and fly David Wolf. The technical inputs that Dan Goldin's going to get or already has gotten are positive. That is, they are basically a go to send David. As you mentioned, Dan Goldin's under tremendous pressure from some members of Congress not to do that.
Yeah. You think you'll probably make the call, as you would if you were running NASA, to let Dave Wolf go ahead and spend the 4 months and about 2 weeks up there?
My hope would be that Mr. Golden would base his decision on the technical inputs and not let the political pressure sway him. I would vote to go.
Well, I've talked to David Wolf in the past little while, and he tells me he is absolutely ready to go, and I tried to give him a little reassurance based on what I've heard about these 2 reports. And Riz and our viewers, Dan Golden commissioned General Tom Stafford, one of the Apollo-era astronauts, a general in the military, retired from that, a man with impeccable credibility, to go through and look at Mir, as he did, Norm, before your flight, to make sure that it was going to be okay for Americans to go. I am told, although General Stafford isn't speaking publicly, that his report has nothing in it that would say no to sending David Wolf. There's another report done after the congressional hearing last week, in which some astronauts were quoted as saying some pretty critical things about the Mir space station. That report, I haven't been able to talk to anybody who knows exactly how it's going to come out. But Norm, do you assume at the end of this this exercise, between now and tomorrow at about 10:30 Eastern United States time, that David Wolf's going to be on there and is going to go to Mir and stay?
If I were betting, I'd bet he's going to be on the shuttle and he will go to the Mir station. I have also heard that the Stafford report is for allowing David to fly on the mission, and the answer of the Phase 1 office to the Inspector General's report was also generally positive, and it pointed out that there were a number of things allegedly said by astronauts that were taken out of context.
All right, Norm Thagard, thank you very much. A man in the know as always. Thanks for being with us, Rick.
And John, of course, you're the man in the know too. Thanks very much for talking to us, especially after having a chance to speak with Dave Wolf as well. We'll wait to see what happens. No doubt we'll be seeing you on this set again very soon.
I'll bet that's the truth.
John, thanks a lot.
Shuttle Atlantis is on its launch countdown. It is scheduled to blast off Thursday to take David Wolf to Mir to replace British-American physicist Michael Foale. But NASA is still reviewing safety reports before deciding whether to make the switch. Mir suffered the latest in a series of technical failures when its computer broke down. Russian space officials say conditions on the space station are now close to normal.
U.S. space officials won't decide until Thursday whether astronaut David Wolf will join Mir's crew for the next couple of months. Mir, of course, has been plagued by numerous problems since June, and its main computer has failed as recently as Monday. The Shuttle Atlantis is due to launch late Thursday. Whether it drops Wolf off or not, Atlantis still will pick up American Michael Foale and deliver some much-needed supplies to the cosmonauts. Scheduled to lift off Thursday on a mission that's slated to include a weekend docking with the Russian space station Mir. But as CNN's John Holloman reports, still unresolved is the question of whether the shuttle will be dropping off another U.S. astronaut during that link-up.
Astronaut Dave Wolf may not get to travel to the Mir space station after all. He's been training for this mission for months and is obviously ready to go despite the danger. But his boss, NASA Administrator Daniel Golden, says he may not approve sending Wolf to Mir. Golden has been traveling in Russia with Vice President Gore and says he won't make a decision until he returns to Washington on Wednesday. The 41-year-old astronaut still hopes he'll get to take the ride.
Looking forward to moving into Mir, and I look at this a little different than a typical space flight, I guess. I'm moving in up there, and someday I'll move back. So I look forward to the landing here, and it's a little early to predict the landing weather for me, but I'll see you in January or sometime thereafter.
Wolf is a medical doctor, also trained as an engineer. He tells CNN he and Administrator Golden have a deal about his making the trip.
Just before our conference, I talked with Dan Golden. He said, Dave, if you'd like, talk to me privately. Jim Weatherby, our commander, took everybody out, and he said, Dave, if you have any concern that you haven't expressed, you can do that at any time, now. I want you to know that you are not being pressured whatsoever. And I assured him the same thing I've assured you, is that I feel very good about meeting our mission objectives. We are well within acceptable safety ranges. I look forward to this mission, and I look forward to keeping you well informed on how it goes.
Shuttle Atlantis is in the final 2 days of its launch countdown, and ground managers don't believe anything will stop the launch.
We haven't heard anything to the contrary. Of course, there'll be some additional discussions from program managers and others today and ongoing. But there's been no rumblings from KSC standpoint. We are still working towards a Thursday night launch, and all our preparations are on track to make that.
Aboard Mir, astronaut Mike Foale and his cosmonaut crewmates have recovered from the third computer failure in 15 days and are trying to keep the station on a steady orbit in anticipation of the shuttle's arrival. One senior NASA official tells CNN he can't remember an incident where the agency's administrator canceled a flight at the last minute, but that's what Golden is threatening to do. He's commissioned 2 reports, one from Apollo astronaut Tom Stafford, the other in response to his own Inspector General, who questioned the safety of an astronaut traveling to Mir. He'll get those reports about 1 day before the scheduled launch. John Holloman, CNN Atlanta.
Dave Wolf always has said he is ready and willing to be the 6th American to live aboard Mir. But in light of the space station's string of troubles, including a 5th main computer shutdown just a few days ago, NASA's administrator Daniel Golden wanted to review 2 final safety reports before making a decision. Former Gemini, Apollo, and Apollo-Soyuz astronaut Thomas Stafford prepared one of the reports and says there's no reason to keep Wolf from going.
The biggest risk that the crew's going to have is on the launch phase going out. On the Mir, there's a little bit of risk, but not much. And then when you come back, there's more risk, but not as much as launch. And this is the history throughout all of rocket. So it's a calculated risk, and you minimize the thing. But basically, the systems on board the Mir are in fairly good shape.
Along with picking up astronaut Michael Foale and dropping off Wolf for a 4-month stay, the Atlantis crew will deliver repair supplies to Mir, including crucial necessities like food, water, and systems hardware. Lori Dew, CNN reporting.
If you have access to the internet, you can read more about the Mir mission and many of our other stories. Our CNN Interactive site on the World Wide Web covers a variety of news, features, and sports. And we have a special website with the latest on the Mir space station. To find that, go to cnn.com/Mir.
Tonight, the Shuttle Atlantis will launch, sending David Wolf to replace Michael Foale and continue American presence on board Mir.
Russian space officials say they were not surprised. CNN's Moscow bureau chief Jill Doherty has more.
After a string of major and minor mishaps, from onboard fires to collisions to computer crashes, the Mir's safety seemed questionable. It was touch and go on whether U.S. astronaut David Wolf would fly on the shuttle this weekend to take the place of Mike Foale. In Washington, some members of Congress were clamoring for the U.S. to pull out of the Mir program altogether. But after a safety review, NASA has determined the Mir is safe enough. The shuttle can be launched to join the Mir this weekend. NASA's green light is a big boost for the Russian space program. The U.S. pays it more than $400 million over 4 years to keep U.S. astronauts on Mir. The shuttle Atlantis brings a brand new main computer to replace the old one that broke down 3 times in the past 3 weeks. It's been repaired, but a Russian space official says the crew doesn't fully trust it. The shuttle also brings new equipment, fresh water, mail for the crew, and possibly some gifts from their families. When it leaves, it will take back used equipment and results of scientific experiments. A mission control spokesman says the Mir crew is in an excellent mood in spite of having to deal with repair work. Astronaut Michael Foale, he says, is a little bit nervous before leaving the Mir, and he will miss the space station. Jill Doherty, CNN, Moscow.
And we have this programming note. CNN will have live coverage of the launch of the Shuttle Atlantis. That launch is expected to take place about 9.5 hours from now.
Dem Start der US-Raumfähre Atlantis zur russischen Raumstation Mir gab sie schließlich doch grünes Licht für die neue Mission.
400 Kilometer über der Erde ist an Bord der Raumstation Mir alles auf den Besuch der Amerikaner vorbereitet. Der zentrale Computer ist wieder einmal provisorisch repariert, denn sonst hätte die US-Raumfähre Atlantis gar nicht andocken können. David Wolf, der 41-jährige Astronaut, der nun 4 Monate an Bord der Mir verbringen soll, hatte ein Jahr lang im russischen Raumfahrtzentrum trainiert. Er sagte jetzt, er freue sich auf die Mission. Wegen der Serie von Pannen in der 11,5 Jahre alten russischen Raumstation gibt es im US-Kongress scharfe Kritik an der Entscheidung, weitere Amerikaner zum Mir zu schicken. Präsident Clinton hielt sich offiziell heraus. Ein Nein für den US-Astronauten hätte aber wahrscheinlich auch zu politischen Verstimmungen zwischen Moskau und Washington geführt. NASA-Direktor Golden begründete das Ja heute ausschließlich technisch.
Our decision should be based and is based on scientific and technical assessment of the mission safety and the
Unsere Entscheidung beruht auf der wissenschaftlichen und technischen Feststellung, dass die Mission sicher ist. Nach dem Start von Atlantis morgen früh werden die NASA-Experten nur die Daumen drücken können, dass der anfällige Mirror-Computer bis zum Ankoppeln durchhält. Astronaut Wolf hat den Ersatzcomputer schon im Reisegepäck.
For the complete U.S. weather picture, here's CNN's Byron Moran.
Let's start off with the today highs. As you can see in the southwest, in the 70s, a lot of cloud cover going to happen here with Nora and rain showers even down in the Southern California. In the 70s for the Pacific Northwest. Nice weather, but rainy. At least it's cool in parts of the Gulf Coast. Go up towards the northeast where you see the yellow. It means it's going to be cooler temperatures in the 60s. Overnight lows, bundle up, and I'm going to show you some blue. Well, I thought it was going to show you blue, but 40s are still cool from Montana, Idaho, into Wyoming, as well as into the northeast, 50s and 60s across the eastern half of the nation. Forecast map looks like this for later today. It has been a drencher in the southeast. We've been talking about Nora for the last day or two, but it is very wet through the southeast because of the stationary front. More rain in the forecast here. Most of the nation pretty quiet, at least across the midsection, because of high pressure. There's Nora. Wind speeds will be diminished greatly as it interacts with the land later tonight, but rain, soaking rain for Southern California, unheard of at this time of year. And they're going to see rain showers into the southwest, Yuma, and just all of this region looking to get wet because of Nora. Pacific Northwest, Seattle and Portland, for the most part, looks dry. Putting the forecast map into motion from later today through Friday evening. Watch Laura and the low track towards the southwest. Rain with this system. A front approaches the Pacific Northwest. A little rain there. High pressure, though, and I just talked about this across most of the nation. Spells for dry weather. But look at the front through the southeast and Florida. Boy, Miami, I forgot about you. Showers in the forecast.
It's dry in the town of Yuma, Arizona, but that could change if Hurricane Nora brings heavy rain as predicted. Don Knapp takes a closer look at how the desert community is preparing for the coming storm.
Throughout the night and into the morning hours, workers did about the only thing they could do to prepare for the storm: fill sandbags. Yuma emergency leaders said they were bracing for 18 to 24 hours of heavy rain and strong winds, and it all could begin soon. And there were some fears in this desert community that people were not ready psychologically.
We're just not psychologically prepared for this kind of storm. To people in Yuma, a 2-inch rainstorm is when the raindrops are 2 inches apart. This is going to be far different, and they need to be prepared mentally as well as physically.
Storm warnings worried many here in Yuma, Arizona. Cars with people waiting for sandbags clogged streets around the main fire department. Workers handed out tens of thousands of bags, but limited them 10 to a family, 15 to a business to be sure there were enough to go around. Sandbagging and laying in a few supplies seemed to be about all folks could do as the storm approached.
I'm worried about the trees falling over and maybe falling onto my car or the house or something, so I think we've already had 2 serious storms like this before here in Yuma County.
So you're worried?
Yes, I am. Very worried.
By the sounds of it, it's supposed to be pretty bad.
Yeah? Think you can weather it?
Well, I think we will. I mean, we'll come out of it.
The city placed huge pumps in low-lying areas. A city worker said most of Yuma doesn't have a high-capacity storm drainage system, and even regular rain quickly backs up.
The pump, as soon as it starts raining, it starts filling up, and we'll just use them and try to shoot the water as quick as we can out of the, catch basins.
You have many pumps around the town?
All around town, they're all set up.
Yuma has already asked for and received a declaration of a state of emergency from the governor to prepare for Nora and do emergency work if the storm hits.
We've got the American Red Cross down here. They're pre-designating a place for shelters, maybe 2 shelters. We also have the Arizona National Guard coming down.
The area's #1 industry is agriculture. A hurricane or tropical storm could do serious damage to citrus groves and other crops. The people of Yuma County are doing what they can. The rest is up to Mother Nature. Folks here hope Nora slips by, but if it doesn't, they'll be ready. Don Knapp, CNN, Yuma, Arizona.
He is going Astronaut David Wolf will head for a 4-month stay aboard the Russian space station Mir after all. Wolf is scheduled to lift off aboard the space shuttle Atlantis in about 9 hours. NASA officials conducted last-minute safety reviews on the aging Mir before deciding Wolf could take his place, the place of Michael Foale. As CNN's John Holloman reports, Wolf is looking forward to his stay on Mir.
What kind of person volunteers to travel to the Russian space station in the same month that it is critically damaged by an out-of-control cargo ship and loses most of its air in the resulting leak? This kind of person, David Wolf. The 41-year-old medical doctor and engineer has been training to travel to Mir for more than a year. Why does he want to do it?
Well, I get to share one of the most unique experiences in life with Anatoly and Pavel. And we will be friends forever as a result of this. So you have to look forward to that.
In the past few months, Wolf's work at the Cosmonaut Training Center near Moscow has intensified as he prepared to conduct Mir repair spacewalks. Despite the list of problems on Mir, including the air leak, the shutdown of the U.S. laboratory and sleeping quarters, problems with the steering, oxygen generating, and air purification systems, Wolf is convinced he should be the third crew member on Mir for the next 4 months.
Looking forward to moving into Mir, and I look at this a little different than a typical space flight, I guess. I'm moving in up there, and someday I'll move back.
Wolf says the people who think he's going to Mir to die just don't have all the facts. He says the bad experiences of previous astronauts will help him on Mir.
Our earlier astronauts on Mir have continuously given us inputs onto how we could better do the training program for Mir, and I was the beneficiary of these.
Wolf talked extensively with CNN about the public's perception of spaceflight. He says he wants to change it for the better. Wolf is single, but he spent the weekend before going into pre-flight quarantine with his parents in Indiana. If something bad were to happen on this trip, he knows how he wants to be remembered back on Earth.
Oh, as a good friend and a good member of our family.
John Holloman, CNN Atlanta.
That's all for this American edition. I'm Jonathan Mann. World Business Today is next.
Foale's tour on Mir has been a stream of sometimes dangerous problems, including the repeated shutdown of the craft's main computer. U.S. space officials studied a number of Mir safety assessments before deciding Wolf can join the crew.
We share our fellow Americans' deep concern for our astronauts' safety, and we have heard the calls of some who would say it's time to abandon Mir. We at NASA, especially Michael Foale, who's in space today, are deeply touched by the outpouring of emotion. However, we know the decision to continue our joint participation aboard Mir should not be based on emotion or politics. It should not be based on fear. Our decision should be based and is based on scientific and technical assessment of the mission's safety and the agency's ability to gain additional experience and knowledge that cannot be gained elsewhere. It is only after carefully reviewing of the facts, thoroughly assessing the input from independent evaluators, and measuring the weighty responsibility NASA bears with putting Americans in space that I approve the decision to continue the next phase of the Shuttle Mir mission. Tonight, the Shuttle Atlantis will launch, sending David Wolf to replace Michael Foale and continue American presence on board Mir.
The big winner in all this is Russia's space program. CNN's Moscow Bureau Chief Jill Doherty examines NASA's decision and what's ahead on Mir. After a string of major and minor mishaps, from onboard fires to collisions to computer crashes, the Mir's safety seemed questionable. It was touch and go on whether U.S. astronaut David Wolf would fly on the shuttle this weekend to take the place of Mike Foale. In Washington, some members of Congress were clamoring for the U.S. to pull out of the Mir program altogether. But after a safety review, NASA has determined the Mir is safe enough. The shuttle can be launched to join the Mir this weekend. NASA's green light is a big boost for the Russian space program. The U.S. pays it more than $400 million over 4 years to keep U.S. astronauts on Mir. The Shuttle Atlantis brings a brand new main computer to replace the old one that broke down 3 times in the past 3 weeks. It's been repaired, but a Russian space official says the crew doesn't fully trust it. The shuttle also brings new equipment, fresh water, mail for the crew, and possibly some gifts from their families. When it leaves, it will take back used equipment and results of scientific experiments. A mission control spokesman says the Mir crew is in an excellent mood in spite of having to deal with repair work. Astronaut Michael Foale, he says, is a little bit nervous before leaving the Mir, and he will miss the space station. Jill Doherty, CNN, Moscow.
Welcome to CNN's live coverage of the launch of the Space Shuttle Atlantis and the beginning of a mission that has generated lots of controversy in the U.S.
We'd like to welcome our international viewers as we turn our focus to the Kennedy Space Center and our attention to CNN's John Hallman. John?
Well, let's look at the live picture coming in from the Kennedy Space Center as we tell you the crew members of Shuttle Atlantis strapped in, completed all the checks they can make before the computer manages their ride into space. Countdown clock is again ticking, and we'll have the launch in about 3 or 4 minutes. What you're looking at now is the rudder at the end of the space shuttle. What the crew is doing and the computer doing together now, testing all the control surfaces. The 3 main engines are wiggling back and forth on command by the computer. They want to make sure that they are not blocked in any way for this launch, because they're going to have to steer the shuttle into space. The launch will occur while Mir is a little bit east of the space shuttle. In fact, we've got a computer program from the Analytical Graphics Company which tracks Mir for us. And what you can see there, that's Mir over the British Isles. So as the shuttle lifts off from the Kennedy Space Center, it will be flying to the east in an effort to catch up with Mir. That's the perfect position for the shuttle to get there without wasting any fuel. For Michael Foale on Mir, this is going to be a long weekend of anticipation. After the shuttle leaves, it'll take 2 days to get up to him. The docking will come Saturday afternoon, and Dave Wolf will replace Foale as the Mir crew member on Sunday. At the launch pad, CNN's John Zarella standing by to watch the big show. John, any last-minute hitches?
Not at all, John. Everything proceeding smoothly, no problems at all. They had a little bit of a delay this afternoon, a computer glitch, and then some thunderstorms rolled through here. So there were some problems with the actual tanking. They got started about an hour and a half late. But since then, not a burp out of the shuttle. The crew is on board. The weather is cooperating. It's turned out to be a very, very nice evening here. And they need to get off tonight because the weather's expected, John, to deteriorate pretty rapidly come tomorrow and into the weekend. John?
Yeah, let's hope they can get it off. Looks like one of the spotlights went out for a while and came back on. What you're looking at is the vent hood on top of the huge liquid fuel tank. It has 2 suction devices up in the top to get all the fuel that goes from liquid to a gas out of the way, because it could be an explosive mixture. It, of course, has to be moved for the shuttle to take off. There was a potential hitch in the launch yesterday as NASA Administrator Daniel Golden met with a panel of independent safety experts to determine if Mir was safe enough for an astronaut to visit. The experts told him it was fine. There's been lots of criticism of Golden and the NASA policy of allowing astronauts to continue living on the troubled space station, at least in the United States. John, you were at the final pre-launch briefing there this morning. Was anybody surprised at Golden's decision to send Dave Wolf?
I think that there was certainly a lot of surprise that that the decision was made, at least amongst the press corps. And I think in Washington, James Sensenbrenner, head of the House Science Committee, said that he's not pleased with it. He, of course, chaired the committee last week that heard a lot of the testimony of the problems on Mir, and he certainly said he's not happy about this decision. And the members of the media here quizzed them and grilled them very thoroughly. But, of course, the line has been right along. The vehicle is safe, Mir is safe, no more of a problem now than it ever has been. So that's why the decision was taken, purely from a technical standpoint, according to the administrator. John?
Yeah, John, I just checked in with Mission Control in Moscow, and the Russians say that Mir is where it's supposed to be. Its computer is working. Countdown in the final half minute. We're going to listen to that. And if anything goes wrong in the last 30 seconds, we'll let you know what happens.
Critical functions. T-minus 20 seconds. T-minus 15, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7. We have a go for main engine. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Atlantis, extending America's presence in space while opening new chapters in exploration.
Houston now controlling. Houston now controlling. Roll program initiated to place Atlantis on its heads down track over the Atlantic. Engines at 104%, preparing to throttle down to 67% for max Q, passing through the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle. Three engines throttling down now. Three engines at 67.
Houston, water boiler quantity message on AP3. Atlantis, you can ignore the water spray boiler quantity message.
Three engines at 67 now, passing through maximum aerodynamic pressure at 58 seconds.
There was a danger readout in the cockpit, and the ground told the crew to ignore it.
Miles per hour now. Altitude 8.8 miles, downrange 5.8 miles.
Atlantis, go at throttle up. Go at throttle up, and we'll ignore the fuel cell Delta V also.
Three engines back at 104%. Now Atlantis moving at 1,600 miles per hour.
Atlantis, that is a deucer. Copy and concur.
Three good fuel cells, three good APUs, three engines running at 104%. Atlantis now moving at over 2,000 miles per hour, 18.4 miles in altitude, downrange 16 miles.
One of the three auxiliary power units on board Atlantis gave the crew a warning that its cooling system, a water spray boiler, was malfunctioning, but indications from the ground are that that's not the case. It is a transducer. The capsule communicator called up to the shuttle and said, it's a deucer problem, meaning a transducer, which is a sending device on that boiler.
Have solid rocket booster separation confirmed.
Beautiful picture. The scariest part of the shuttle launch has just ended.
Performance nominal. Nominal performance.
Performance during first stage considered nominal now. Three engines running at 104% as intended. Three good APUs, three good fuel cells. Atlantis now 48 miles downrange.
Atlantis, two-engine Marone.
John Zarella, as we watched this launch, and our viewers watched it around the world, they saw the TV screens turn to bright red, yellow, and orange. It was like the prettiest sunset anybody had ever seen. Is that what it looked like from your position on the ground?
Miles per hour.
Yes, exactly. Quite spectacular tonight, John. And you couldn't see the thin layer of clouds here until Atlantis. You couldn't see them just looking up until Atlantis actually got up close to them. And then it went through a very thin layer of cloud and disappeared. It looked like a faint star in the distance from the ground, unlike what the NASA pictures, those clear NASA pictures showed. Of course, I'm sure that was a very exhilarating moment for David Wolf's mother, who was here with NASA, not with us, but here at the Space Center with NASA Administrator Dan Golden over at one of the VIP sites. I'm sure a great sigh of relief from her, and certainly from Administrator Golden, to get this vehicle off the ground. John?
That's right. Everybody who's done a safety study of the Mir space station has said the most dangerous time for somebody going to Mir isn't on Mir. It's the 2.5 minutes that just transpired till those solid rockets fell off the side of the shuttle. So it was a good launch. From everything we were able to hear from space and from the ground controllers, John Zarella, thank you. And to our viewers, we thank you as well. That concludes our coverage of the live launch of the shuttle. We'll be back with more. Stay with CNN.
Booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Atlantis, extending America's presence in space while opening new chapters in exploration.
Houston now controlling. Houston now controlling. Roll program initiated to place Atlantis on its heads down track over the Atlantic.
This has been a CNN Live event.
We begin with the shuttle Atlantis, which is now in space following a breathtaking nighttime launch. The shuttle is carrying U.S. astronaut David Wolf, who will serve aboard Mir and help to repair the ailing Russian space station. CNN's John Holloman has the details.
For the 5 Americans, 1 Russian, and 1 Frenchman aboard the Space Shuttle Atlantis, it was a night to remember. They'd been preparing for about a year to travel to Russia's Mir space station and drop off their precious cargo. Astronaut Dave Wolf to replace Mike Foale on Mir.
This is Michael Foale on the space station Mir on the 25th of September.
Foale, for his part, made one last televised appearance from the Russian space station before the shuttle's arrival and showed off the broken computer parts that have made life on Mir somewhat uncertain for the past few weeks. As the crew members made their final goodbyes on the ground and took the drive to Launch Complex 39, they were smiling about what was to come. Then, the big moment.
3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of the Space Shuttle Atlantis.
After they get there, it'll be a busy 6 days docked with the Russian ship. Mir's crew needs drinking water, and the shuttle will have more than a ton to deliver. Mir needs a new computer, and there's one of those in the Space Hab module in the cargo bay. And Mir needs other emergency repair parts to fix the leak in the Spectre module and make other improvements to life on the space station. Mission managers on Earth are happy their 7-person crew is now in orbit and are telling CNN privately the next worry will come on Saturday as the shuttle docks with Mir. Fingers are crossed that the bulky space station computer will keep working long enough to make the docking possible. John Holloman, CNN Atlanta.
I hope all the experiments go well and hope they all are safe and come back to us.
Do you think you're going to be able to relax in the next 4 months?
Fine, yeah.
Go to sleep without worrying about this? Yeah.
Sure I will. Sure, I've known David for 41 years. He's always been an adventurer.
A new computer for Mir is part of a huge load of repair supplies on Atlantis. The two are scheduled to link up on Saturday.
A tropical storm in the southwest United States. That's just not supposed to happen. But Nora was spawned, the experts say, by that freakish weather phenomenon known as El Nino. In many parts of the world, El Nino, which means the child, acts a lot like a spoiled brat. It generally wreaks weather havoc across the globe. But the meteorological temper tantrums, in some cases, come with a rainbow. El Nino is credited with nearly shutting down the entire 1997 Atlantic hurricane season.
It cuts down on the risk to not only the United States, but also the Caribbean islands and Central America. Yeah, so overall it's viewed as a pretty good thing.
The 2 hurricane seasons before this produced nearly record numbers of storms. For a while each season they were lined up one behind the other across the Atlantic. Damage was counted not in millions, but billions of dollars. This was supposed to be yet another active year, but because of El Nino, the calm winds needed in the Atlantic hurricane breeding grounds were replaced by a stiff breeze.
The systems that were back over to the east were affected by strong westerly winds across the top of them, in effect blowing the top of the developing thunderstorms off.
Meteorologists say an El Nino event usually lasts a couple of years. Not only does it reduce the number of Atlantic hurricanes that form, it also limits the strength of those that do develop. But it doesn't eliminate them completely.
We found that even in a very inactive season, for example, 1983, we only had a couple hurricanes that year. One of them was Hurricane Alicia, and it caused $2 billion of damage in Galveston.
Indeed, it only takes one. 1992 was another El Nino year. Just a couple of hurricanes formed. One of them was Andrew, the costliest natural disaster in U.S. history. John Zarella, CNN, Miami.
Depression, but not before dumping buckets of rain on the American southwestern desert. It caused little property damage, but destroyed up to $200 million worth of crops in one Arizona county alone. Nora's outer reaches also gave Los Angeles its first rainfall in a record 219 days, almost half an inch of it.
In just under 4 hours, another astronaut is expected to go on board the Mir space station. The crew of the Space Shuttle Atlantis is making last-minute preparations for the docking. We're going to be joined by CNN space correspondent John Holloman. We'll be bringing you an update on the expedition when we come back. The Space Shuttle Atlantis is scheduled to dock with the space station Mir in just under 4 hours. The shuttle blasted off on Thursday night, and so far everything is running smoothly. But it's a mission that has been surrounded in controversy, largely concerning the safety of the Russian Mir space station. CNN space correspondent John Holloman is with us. He has the latest now on the expedition. John, what can you tell us?
Well, Jim, I'll tell you, it is going along like clockwork today. They've got one big concern, and that is whether the computer on the Mir space station, which has to sort of keep the space station going through space like this while the docking takes place in about 3 hours and 45 minutes, if that computer fails at the last minute, the space station is going to start to do this, which is going to make that docking, since the shuttle is going to be flying this way, impossible to do. So fingers are crossed.
It's been the problem all along. That computer's failed how many times now?
3 times in the last 3 weeks, which is not good. And Mike
But
Fowler,
they've got a replacement for it, right?
But it's not on Mir. It's in the shuttle. This is, you know, but final preparations for all this, I will tell you, are well underway.
All right, as we bring up all of those things, they're low on water. They've got, as I understand it, 2.5 tons
on the
repair
shuttle,
and resupply?
Oh, right, spare parts. See, the shuttle, when it makes electricity, creates water as a byproduct. So the shuttle, the whole time it has been flying to Mir, has been making water, and they've been storing it in these big rubber bladder things. And they've got about a ton of it, I guess, is the last that I heard, ready to go aboard Mir after they dock. And that's the big thing they need. They're going to run out of water in a couple of weeks. And the other thing, as you say, spare parts, spare computer, all of this stuff. As I told you earlier, the preparations for this right on schedule up to this final minute.
And liftoff of the Space Shuttle Atlantis.
After the spectacular launch, the Shuttle Atlantis will be docking with Mir this afternoon on a shuttle that's more crowded than any previous one. The cargo bay is jammed with repair parts and life support equipment for Mir. The crew is in final planning for the docking. After that, the 7 astronauts and the 3 Mir crew members will unload all the stuff in the cargo bay while removing all the broken equipment and experimental results from the Russian station. After liftoff, NASA Administrator Daniel Golden congratulated the launch team.
I love you all, and you just make this country real proud. Thank you.
Moments later, Golden gave Dave Wolf's mother, Dottie, a hug for the cameras.
Can I give you another hug?
You sure can. I love hugs. I've seen you on television. Now I'm on it with you.
Mrs. Wolf says she told her son David to take his screwdriver to fix Mir. Aboard the Russian space station, it's still hard to get good TV pictures back to Earth. But Mike Fowle, who's in his final 2 days as a Mir crew member, gave it a try, offering his regular report to Earth. The space station computer, which has shut down the station's automatic steering system 3 times in the past 2 weeks, was his subject, and he showed ground controllers the faulty part, which has been causing all the trouble.
We had to try and make a good box, a triplet, out of the pieces, the individual A, B's, and C's that you see here in the picture.
The shuttle will continue its slow approach until this afternoon, when it will slowly move up to the station and begin the process of replacing Fowle with Dave Wolf for the next 4 months.
Shuttle Atlantis is now about 12 kilometers from the Mir space station. Coming up in 80 minutes from now, 75 minutes, I guess, Shuttle Commander Jim Weatherby will fire his engines one last time to set the orbiter on course for the final docking. Then in about an hour and 45 minutes, the shuttle will be 600 feet below Mir. At that point, Commander Weatherby will probably begin to get pretty nervous. The most important piloting of his career will begin. Manually, he'll fly Atlantis up under Mir toward that bright red docking tunnel, illustrated here by my thumb. About 45 minutes later, he'll stop the shuttle 30 feet, 10, 11 meters away from Mir. Finally, the docking itself will happen just under 4 hours from now. Jim?
Is this a make it or break it time for Mir? It has been plagued by problems. Does it have to, it's got the repair equipment on board, does it have to really show some progress, some reliability to maintain support for this project?
I'll tell you how important this is, Jim. There is not a good backup plan in case for some reason the shuttle can't dock with Mir. I mean, it is real important for the space shuttle to hook up with the space station this afternoon. They have an unmanned Progress resupply ship that's on the ground in Russia, and that ship has some of the supplies that they've got to have in the next couple of weeks. But if the shuttle doesn't get to do its job today and over the next couple of days, experts are telling me it may be very dicey that Mir survives. NASA continues to tell us in the past few seconds that they are confident everything's on schedule. Mir's computer, which only has to hold out another 4 hours, is holding out very well right now, and the people on board Mir are just watching it and babying it. They're trying to keep it cool. They think the recent problems were caused by overheating, so they've got fans blowing on it and doing everything they can to keep it together. After the shuttle hooks up, it can go bad. It doesn't matter. The shuttle can control the Mir space station after they hook up. But until that point, it's kind of touch and go.
Now, you noted here that this is going to be manual as they go in there. But in the past, at least some of the docking is done automatically, or is that a lack of confidence again in that computer?
Mir, the Russian space agency wants to be able to do it all automatically, so they can dock a ship with Mir while the crew is asleep. And all of their spaceships are set up to do that. But they have been doing some practicing with manual docking, and it's in one of those practices that they had the wreck. The shuttle doesn't have an automatic docking system with Mir. It's got a very high-level pilot commander who's at the controls and very carefully, slowly moving the shuttle's docking piece into the Mir's docking piece. And so it's got to be done manually for the shuttle to hook up.
When we watch the pictures of it, and it's always interesting to see, it seems, well, they're going so slowly. Yeah. Put it in perspective a little bit. How fast are they actually traveling?
Well, they are traveling through space real fast, 17,500 miles an hour, roughly. But it's sort of like you're in your car and I'm in my car and we're driving down the road 60 miles an hour. We can pass each other, look out the window and wave. It's not relative motion is very, very slow, maybe an inch or a number of centimeters per second for the final few seconds of this. The shuttle is closing toward Mir, really still pretty fast right now. 5 or 10 kilometers an hour. But as it gets closer, it'll get really, really slow, relatively speaking. They don't want these things to bang into each other. They want them just to barely kiss and have these two sets of docking fingers intermesh.
Well, this is white-knuckle time at NASA and up on Mir and Atlantis.
Absolutely, absolutely.
All right, John, thanks a lot for being with us.
I'll be back. See you closer to docking time.
Okay, good. As John mentioned, the docking is scheduled to take place a little under 4 hours from now. We're going to broadcast that live for you.
Die letzten Vorbereitungen für das Andock-Manöver der Atlantis an der russischen Raumstation Mir klappen offenbar problemlos. Die Atlantis und mit ihr die 7-köpfige Mannschaft soll um 5:10 die Mir erreichen. An Bord mehr als 4 Tonnen Versorgungsgüter und natürlich Austauschastronaut Wolf.
The U.S. Space Shuttle Atlantis is steaming toward the Russian space station Mir as their crews prepare for a critical docking of the two crafts. Astronauts on board Atlantis are bringing badly needed supplies and a new crewman to the Mir. CNN's John Holloman explains how important this mission really is.
Die Besatzung der Raumfähre Atlantis bereitet sich darauf vor, in knapp 2 Stunden an die Raumstation Mir anzudocken. Dies wird allerdings nur dann gelingen, wenn der störanfällige Computer der Mir durchhält. Die Atlantis hat Ersatzteile und einen neuen Rechner für die Mir an Bord. US-Astronaut David Wolf wird in die Mir umsteigen und dort die nächsten 4 Monate verbringen.
Man ist optimistisch, dass alles gut gehen wird. Man hat am Nachmittag noch einmal vermeldet, alles ist in Ordnung. Die Besatzung der Mir hat sogar noch einmal 3 Stunden frei bekommen. Sie sollen sich aufs Ohr legen, um nachher ganz konzentriert bei der Sache zu sein. Auch an der Atlantis ist, soweit ich gehört habe, alles im Lot. Dort ist die Crew heute Morgen mit Dancing in the Dark von Bruce Springsteen geweckt worden. Hoffentlich kein schlechtes Omen, denn ein Tanz im Dunkeln soll das Ganze nachher nicht werden.
Na, hoffentlich. 7-mal wurde ja schon reibungslos angedockt auf der Mir. So ganz schwierig ist das ja wohl nicht mehr. Aber nach der Pan-Serie natürlich steht viel auf dem Spiel. Was denn?
Ja, für die Russen steht in der Tat enorm viel auf dem Spiel. Die Zukunft der bemannten russischen Raumfahrt. Aber vielleicht nicht nur der russischen, sondern der ganzen internationalen. Weil die Mir ist im Augenblick die einzige Raumstation, die überhaupt im Kosmos sich befindet. Und es ist ja schon in den letzten Jahren eine sehr intensive internationale Zusammenarbeit vonstatten gegangen zwischen den Russen und Deutschen, Franzosen, Westeuropäern und natürlich auch mit den Amerikanern. Und wenn heute was schief geht oder wenn die Mission irgendwie nicht so läuft, wie es geplant ist, dann steht die Zukunft der russisch-amerikanischen Zusammenarbeit auf dem Spiel. Und die ist enorm wichtig, denn in 2 Jahren soll begonnen werden, die internationale Raumstation Alpha zu bauen. Und die soll irgendwann die Mir ablösen, irgendwann im Jahr 2002. Und deshalb ist das Ganze heute Abend quasi ein Lackmustest, ob das weitergehen kann.
Also wir drücken jetzt einfach mal die Daumen. Wir sehen uns nachher nochmal gegen 22 Uhr. Vielen Dank, Dirk Emmerich nach Moskau.
Atlantis soll im Laufe des Abends an die russische Raumstation Mir andocken. Die zuständigen Behörden in Moskau gehen davon aus, dass das Manöver trotz der Pannenserie auf der Mir wie geplant erfolgen kann. Atlantis soll der Raumstation knapp 4 Tonnen Versorgungsgüter und einen neuen Zentralcomputer bringen.
Da darf der Zentralcomputer nicht wieder aufmucken, sonst kommt die Besatzung der Mir und die 7-köpfige Crew des Shuttles wieder in ernste Schwierigkeiten.
Countdown im All. An Bord der russischen Raumstation Mir ist alles bereit für das Andockmanöver der US-Raumfähre Atlantis. Um 21:55 Uhr mitteleuropäischer Zeit soll es soweit sein. Es ist das 7. Mal, dass eine US-Raumfähre zur Mir fliegt. Atlantis befindet sich mit fast 4 Tonnen Versorgungsgütern und einem neuen Zentralcomputer an Bord im Anflug.
Hello, it's John Holloman at CNN Center, welcoming our viewers to various CNN networks, including CNN's international network, to our live coverage of the docking of Space Shuttle Atlantis to the Russian space station Mir. It is dark in space. Let me take you there and show you a live picture taken from the Mir space station of the cargo bay of Shuttle Atlantis. Well, that's not what it is. After all, it's changed in the past couple of seconds, but this is a computer animation showing the shuttle. There's a picture of the shuttle. Taken from Mir. You can see at the front of that picture, actually about the middle of your screen right now, the shuttle's docking port with one of Mir's solar panels nearby. Jim Weatherby, the commander of the space shuttle, is at a window very close to that shuttle docking port that's visible right now. He is in the final seconds of his most important piloting job to date. He's driving Shuttle Atlantis at about 1 inch a second toward the Mir space station. He's looking at a TV screen in the back of the flight deck, and if there's time, also looking out the windows near that docking port and into the Atlantis cargo bay. Mir is directly overhead, and there's a wide tubular docking adapter in the cargo bay. You can just on the left of your screen see that docking adapter. We have a model of Space Shuttle Atlantis provided to us by the Spacehab Corporation. And on our model, we can also show you where that docking adapter is located. This is the big picture of the shuttle. Here's the docking adapter, and that's what we were just looking at on those live pictures from space. Let's go back to the live pictures again now. The docking port will be driven into the red docking adapter on the outside of the Mir space station, which you can't see in this live picture, but you'll probably be able to see it in a matter of seconds. If the docking is successful, and it appears it will be at this moment, the two ships will be touching in about a minute. Here's where the two ships are located over the Earth. We have a computer-generated program provided to us by the Analytical Graphics Company. Right up here at the top of Mir's orbit is where the two spaceships are. The reason these pictures that we're seeing from space are grainy at some points is because Russian ground stations are being used to transmit those to the ground. When we go back to those pictures, they should be getting a little better. Shuttle Commander Weatherby has his entire crew and the entire Mir crew helping him do this very tricky maneuver. The Mir crew sending directions over walkie-talkies to astronauts with identical radios in the shuttle. They're speaking Russian for the most part. Now, this is the tail of the shuttle, I believe. Yep, that's it. You're looking down the tail of the space shuttle. Now they've gone to a different view. That's a window on top of the space shuttle. Commander Weatherby is in that window. You can see a yellow, what appears to be an arrow point. Weatherby his head is directly in that window beneath that arrow point, and he is looking through that window up at the Mir space station. Joining us from Russian Mission Control is CNN's Jill Doherty. Jill, we can see the pictures, and from what we can hear, things are going well. What's it look like from the Russian side of the docking?
Well, I'll tell you, here at Mission Control, the room, every single eye is looking straight at a giant screen. Actually, there are 2 screens here where you can see what's happening, and they are glued to that screen, watching, making sure that everything goes okay. But actually, some of the officials down on the floor look very at ease. They're walking around, and looks like everything is under control. It's a really important thing, obviously, this moment, especially bringing up the computer that they desperately need aboard Mir. But the mood's good.
That's good, Jill. Right above your last name on the TV screen right now, you can see Shuttle Commander Jim Weatherby's head, and that's a good sign. You can't see much of him there, but he is very, very meticulously operating a control stick for the shuttle to make this, this docking in its final seconds. It's supposed to happen any second now. Why don't we listen in to the sounds from Mission Control in Moscow and from the space shuttle and just see if we can hear the docking as it occurs.
2 метра. 2 метра. 2 метра. Да, уже 1,5. 1,5.
Atlantis just 5 feet away. This is a live picture from the Mir space station.
1 метр.
The voice you just heard is that of NASA commentator Rob Navius. Jill Doherty, feel free to jump in and help us translate this Russian as it comes back and forth.
Ожидаем касания. Есть касание, есть касание, есть захват, capture.
This is a docking target inside the docking tunnel on Mir.
Contact and capture confirmed.
Good news. The two ships have docked.
Atlantis and Mir linked up once again.
Got it.
We copy and confirm.
Jill Doherty, you and I have done these dockings in the past together. It was a
normal post-docking
Just a moment, we'll listen in here for a second. This particular docking made more intense because
the vehicles are in free drift to enable the mechanical structure of the latches and hooks to begin engaging one another.
At any rate, this docking was more tense for a lot of people because Mir's onboard computer had to be operating correctly for the docking to occur, and it has failed 3 times over the past 3 weeks. One of the important things inside the space shuttle, of course, is the replacement computer for Mir's main computer. Jill?
You know, John, in fact, there was a funny moment when we were talking to one of the NASA people. He was listening in, of course, on the conversations between the shuttle crew and the Mir crew, and he said that the shuttle crew at one point was saying, we'll be greeting each other, and in one hand will be shaking your hand, and in the other hand we'll have a new computer for you. And that really is, they were waiting with bated breath for this computer. It's extremely important. In fact, they were nervous. Even though they had fixed it on Monday, they were a bit nervous that even at the very last moment it might break down. Obviously it didn't, but there was that concern that right to the last moment it might not work. And they actually had contingency plans in case it didn't. And John, when the actual link-up occurred, I was watching the officials here. They were looking relieved, I'd say, but kept on doing what they had to do. Everybody else in the hall, and that includes, I would say, more officials than I have seen in a long time here at Mission Control. They all broke into applause and some cheers. But they're right now down on the floor. They're discussing, I guess, the next move. They look happy, but it's the usual full steam ahead.
Yeah, for a minute there, Jill, we saw what appeared to be a video graphic giving the Russian mission controllers and the U.S.-Russian joint space program an attaboy. We saw a globe spinning with Mir and the shuttle on top of it. I guess that was a signal to the people in the room that everything had gone well in this docking. What is this picture, Jill? Do you know? I've never seen anything like this.
I have not. Is that the Earth?
It is. It's us.
That's the Earth now.
And it's probably closer to where you are than where I am, because the...
Yeah, we don't usually see it. We don't usually see it from that distance, but that looks like the good old Earth.
Right. What is happening is that one of the Mir crew members has a little small handheld camera inside the Russian space station, and he is pointing it out the window as he gets a chance to. I can tell just these pictures don't look too clear, but they are taken from the Mir. You can see one of Mir's solar panels there. And this is a picture, I believe, of the space shuttle that was taken at some time before the docking. We'll see when it gets more focused in. I'm not sure whether it's coming to us from Mir or the shuttle. That is obviously coming from Mir. It is a picture of the shuttle. This is a videotape replay that the cosmonauts had been making during the few minutes before docking. That's what Shuttle Atlantis looked like as it was approaching the Russian space station. And these pictures are being fed to Earth now, but they were taken some few minutes ago. And it's quite a sight. It must be for Michael Foale, who is looking out the window of the Mir space station as his ride home came up from beneath him. It must have been quite a thing for him to see. We are hearing on our NASA communications channel that the docking is proceeding normally. The two ships have touched now. There is a procedure that takes 5 to 7 minutes for the two ships to have what they call a hard docking, what happens is there are sort of leaves on, sort of like the petals of a flower, on both the Mir and the shuttle. Those two leaves are about to interconnect right on the bottom of your screen. If you look to the left of the CNN logo on your screen, you can see a little piece of light, a little line of light coming across the screen. That's where the two ships connect. You can see that light going out. The reason it is going out is that the shuttle is being driven upward into the bright red docking tunnel on Mir. That makes what the engineers call a hard mate. And when the two ships are hard mated, then there won't be any chance for air to get in or out of the docking connection, and that's a good thing. What will happen over the next hour or so is that the two ships will fly together just like this after the hard mate is confirmed, and they'll conduct some leak checks. They'll pump a little air into that docking tunnel, make sure it doesn't leak out. And then finally, in about 90 minutes, they'll have the hatch opening ceremony, and Michael Foale will get to see David Wolf for the first time in a long time, and Wolf is Foale's replacement on this mission. I would be willing to bet you that David Wolf's mom, who was at the launch of the Space Shuttle a couple nights ago, is watching our coverage now with great interest. But it looks like it's going very, very well. Jill?
She had said, in fact, Mrs. Wolf apparently said that she was hoping that David had taken his screwdriver with him. And actually, the Russian crews at one point about a week and a half ago had joked in a space link that was one of their primary fix-it tools. They actually have been improvising a lot. In fact, that computer repair that they did really at the last minute was bringing together spare parts and kind of weaving it together to work. So the screwdriver literally has come in handy. We've heard that more than once, that some of the tools that they had that were very, very sophisticated actually weren't the best things to use in the given case. So many times they just improvise. And that's really what the Russians have said all along, that their strength, even though there are a lot of things obviously that have gone wrong, that they pride themselves on being able to make it up at the last minute, pull it together, and fix it no matter what. So they're now, obviously, they're happy to have more equipment, and there is really quite a lot of equipment. They have a patch that they'll be putting on, as you know, John, to repair some of that damage from the accident back in June. They've got they have water, they have other equipment, and they even have some mail and personal gifts from the families, because after all, these men have been up there for quite a while. Michael Foale, of course, yes, Mike Foale up there for 4.5 months, ready to come back, and David Wolf will be up for 4 months. So it's a long time to be up there.
No kidding, Joe. I know you know David Wolf pretty well. I have developed a pretty good friendship with him over the past 3 or 4 months of his training. He sent me an email message from quarantine in Florida the morning that he was launched into space. And in this message, he said, it is so important that people all over the earth understand how good it is to have a space program where human beings get to fly in space. And he gave you and the Cable News Network and even me an atta person for trying to tell that story to our viewers around the world. Let's listen in to NASA commentator Rob Navius and see how things are going.
Rehearsal of rendezvous and docking techniques to the Mir. He brought it all the way in just a few minutes ago, executing a textbook rendezvous and docking with the Mir space station at 2:58 p.m. Central Time. Atlantis and the Mir linked together for the 7th time in 2 years.
Atlantis, Houston, we see both hooks latched. You have a go for attitude control.
A very important and significant announcement that you just heard. That was a NASA astronaut on the ground in Houston telling the shuttle commander he can take control of the guidance for the Mir space station. This is a good thing, Jill. As you know, and I know, we have talked a lot about the fact that the Mir's onboard computer has failed 3 times in the past 3.5 weeks. And Mir, if that computer had failed while the two ships were together, it would have been bad. That is now out of the question because the shuttle, which has much newer computers than the one on board Mir, is now in control of the guidance of both pieces of equipment. As you look down into the cargo bay of Atlantis right now, you can see the docking port you could at the front. That docking port now connected in this live picture from space to the Mir space station.
The shuttle Atlantis.
This picture taken from the cargo bay of the shuttle. And the flashing lights that you see in the upper right-hand corner of your screen are docking and landing lights on the Mir, which were used to guide the shuttle into its docking.
Houston, you have a go for the shuttle attitude maneuver.
Ground controllers in Houston have told the shuttle it's in charge of keeping Mir on course now the second time. We haven't heard back from the shuttle that they got the message. So folks in Houston are now waiting to hear.
Roger.
On board the space shuttle, they have a checklist, and they are at step 31E on that checklist. I don't have it in front of me, but it may well have something to do with the shuttle taking over attitude control of the now Mir Atlantis combination as it floats through space. All right, Jill Doherty, as we look at this picture from the space shuttle perspective, what are people in Moscow getting to see from Mir?
Yes, John.
Yeah, what are folks in Moscow
John,
getting to see?
I couldn't hear you.
Noisy where you are. I'm looking over your shoulder, Jill, and I was trying to figure out what folks at Russian Mission Control were able to see, as we're seeing in the United States a picture from the shuttle of the docking port, and it looks like the two ships have put themselves together very well.
Exactly. They have the probably the same picture that you're getting, John. They can see it on these screens. These are the ones that I was talking about. There's one behind me, another on the other side. And they're actually, the officials, the people who are in charge, are actually down on the floor below us looking up at that. And down there they have individual kind of pods where the different people who are specialists in different areas are working. They're coordinating, obviously, and then we have the commanders here in charge, the very high officials who are running the operation down on the floor, a little bit below us.
Yeah. Well,
and John, one other thing, we had a chance a few minutes ago. Our producer Ryan Chilcott had a chance to go around and talk to some of the officials who were here, and one of them used the word. It was a work of masters bringing those two ships together. So I guess they are pretty happy about how it went.
Well, they ought to be. It certainly sound like the work of masters, as the shuttle commander and the Mir commander were able to talk a little Russian, a little English, a little back and forth. It's a remarkable thing. We have on our illustration panel now another live picture from Mir, or rather from the shuttle, showing what's going on Mir. This spot right here, I guess you can see it in this line I'm drawing, is the spot where the shuttle and the Mir are connected. This part, the red part, is the Russian space station. This part down here, just one tiny little piece of the space shuttle. You can see the tail of the shuttle back there. It's a beautiful picture. It is very clear. It is being transmitted to Earth from the shuttle. And as things stand now, what will happen over the next couple of minutes is that they'll do leak checks on the shuttle Mir combination, make sure there's no way for air to get out, and they'll open the hatch and have a big arrival ceremony. We'll have that for you coming up in a little while. We'll watch it. Jill Doherty, thank you. And thank you, our viewers around the world, for watching. We'll now return you to our regularly scheduled programs after this pretty fascinating live event. It's John Holloman at CNN Center. Thanks for being with us.
This has been a CNN Live event.
In the end, all's well that ends well.
Contact and capture confirmed. Atlantis and Mir linked up once again.
Well, just before the top of this hour, the two spacecraft, as we heard there, successfully docked. As noted by CNN's John Holloman Live, the docking was considered crucial because the computer on board Mir that keeps the space station stable has failed several times in recent weeks, 3 times to be exact. If it had failed before or during the docking procedure, it could have created critical problems. Atlantis is carrying much-needed supplies of water and other essentials for Mir. Astronaut David Wolf will replace another U.S. spaceman, Michael Foale. And the shuttle is also bringing the Mir cosmonauts a new computer that will replace the one that has become such a source of trouble.
Contact and capture confirmed.
A trouble-plagued Mir holds steady for a rendezvous with the shuttle Atlantis. In Washington, welcome to Early Prime. About an hour ago, the space shuttle Atlantis docked with the Mir space station. CNN's John Holloman provided the play-by-play during our live coverage of the docking, and he joins us now from Atlanta with the latest. John?
Oh, Gene, they did it. The shuttle Atlantis docked successfully with space station Mir. It was about 2 minutes later than planned, but the docking looked perfect from the ground. During the final approach from about 30 feet away, Mir sent live pictures to the ground, and the shuttle made videotape. That's what the front of Atlantis looks like as it was seen by the Mir just about 7 minutes before the docking. And I think we now have videotape from the shuttle to show you as well. That's a picture in the shuttle's cargo bay, again showing the docking connector. Ground managers in Houston and Korolev in Russia have confirmed the docking tunnel is not leaking, so the airlock separating the two spaceships can be opened on schedule a little less than a half hour from now. Isn't that pretty? The shuttle Mir combination is flying over South America right now, and you can see it's still daylight down there below. One NASA official in Russia told our Jill Doherty a few minutes ago that when the door opens, Commander Jim Weatherby will have his right hand outstretched for a handshake, but in his left hand he'll probably have that replacement computer for Mir. The space station needs a lot, and the shuttle has much of the material to bring Mir back up to normal operation. In addition to the computer, there's enough water to keep the crew alive for more than a month, and there are repair parts for the leak in Mir's Spectre module. That leak was not found in the spacewalk conducted by Commander Anatoly Soloviev and astronaut Mike Foale a few weeks back. The arrival ceremony is coming up next, and there'll be lots of hugs for both crews. Tomorrow morning, Mike Foale will become a shuttle crew member for the first time in 4 months, and David Wolf will become a Mir resident for the next 4 months. Gene?
Michael Foljon has been up there for a harrowing several months. When are we likely to hear from him?
I'm going to talk to him on Tuesday morning at about 10:25 here on CNN. He'll still be up there at that time, and he'll probably do some other interviews while he's in space. As soon as he gets back to Earth, I plan to have a nice long sit-down with him and, you know, try to pick his brain about what really happened up there. It was pretty much touch and go a time or two while he was in space.
Okay, John Holloman in Atlanta, thank you for joining us. Florida may be the Sunshine State, but drenching rains are causing floods along the Gulf Coast. A stalled low-pressure system soaked the Tampa Bay area, causing dozens of injuries, flooding roads and frustrating motorists. 6 people were injured by lightning. 1 person was swept away by surging water in a storm drain. For more on the flooding in Florida and the rest of the nation's weather, here's Byron Miranda.
Gene, I think I have some good news for the folks in Florida, although as I turn around and show you the weather watch of the hour, you can see a whole bunch of rain from Jacksonville down to Tampa, just off the coast, a line of thunderstorms there. The good news in this forecast is that this rain is going to go away when that area of low pressure starts to trek up towards the northeast, and by Monday morning, it should dry out in Florida, so that's good news there. Rain showers through parts of the Gulf Coast, but the northeast is quiet because of high pressure. But within the next 24 hours, New York City, Philadelphia, Boston, over to Cleveland in the Ohio Valley, we'll see rain showers with one frontal system that will approach the northeast. Rain occurring right now through the northern plains, pretty quiet in the Pacific Northwest, just downright hot towards northern and southern California. But first, let's take a look at the overnight lows. 30 degrees. Very cool, as you can see, in the blues here, so bundle up. 40s along the west coast, 60s and 50s across the eastern half of the nation. I'm going to put this map into motion to show you the highs. I'm going to switch around here. 80s through Northern California. If you're in San Francisco, you might see a high of 90 degrees in the city. At the beach in the 80s, so unseasonably hot here. 101 degrees for Woodland Hills, Southern California. Cooler in the Pacific Northwest with onshore flow plus some clouds. In the 80s through the southeast, let's go 67 degrees for Boston, 68 or 69 degrees for New York City. Rainfall outlook over the next 24 hours through Sunday evening. I put the map into motion. Right here, that's where one frontal system is through Minnesota, and you're going to see some thunderstorms here where you see the orange, heavy rain possible. Also, heavy rain is possible from the mid-Atlantic down to the southeast through Florida. You know about Florida, but this is going to go away within the next 24 hours. And I just talked about that frontal system bringing rain showers towards the midsection of the U.S. Here it is, and there's the low, and so that's why it's wet here. This low was down here over the last couple of days. It's going to start to trek up towards the northeast. With that, the rain will start to clear out by Monday morning through the southeast. So that's very good news for Florida. Gene, now back to you in D.C.
Coming up in just a matter of minutes on CNN, live coverage of the opening of the hatch between the Shuttle Atlantis and the space station Mir. Again, that's coming up in just a few minutes. And that's all for this edition of Early Prime. I'm Jean Meserve in Washington. Thanks for joining us. World Sport is next for our international viewers. And for our viewers in North America, Evans and Novak is straight ahead. long-awaited link in space. The crew aboard space station Mir greets the shuttle astronauts. This is Worldview. The shuttle Atlantis and the space station Mir are joined together at this hour. The two craft docked a couple of hours ago, about 250 miles above the Earth. CNN carried the docking live with commentary from Mission Control and CNN's John Holloman.
This is a docking target inside the docking tunnel on Mir.
Contact and capture confirmed.
Good news. The two ships have docked.
Atlantis and Mir linked up once again.
It is the 7th time in 2 years a shuttle has joined with Mir. The often malfunctioning central computer on the Mir station passed its last major test by keeping Mir in position for the docking. The Atlantis crew has brought a new computer for Mir, along with water, food, and other supplies. U.S. astronaut David Wolf will join the Mir crew, replacing current Mir astronaut Michael Foale, who will return to Earth on Atlantis. Mir and the shuttle are scheduled to be linked for the next 6 days. For more on the Atlantis-Mir docking, we go live to Russian Mission Control. CNN's Jill Doherty is standing by with more on the opening of the hatch between Atlantis and Mir. Jill?
Well, Gene, there are a lot of happy Russian space officials here at Mission Control outside of Moscow when they opened the hatch, coming through all of the 7 Atlantis astronauts and actually 1 Russian cosmonaut coming through, meeting the Mir crew. They say that they were greeted, at least NASA tells us, that they were greeted in the traditional Russian fashion with bread and salt. And just a few minutes ago, we had a very quick on-the-fly briefing from Russian space officials, and they tell us that they plan to change out that computer within 2 days. They were hoping to be able to do that while both of the vehicles were linked up. They'd have more power, they'd have more control, and that is the crucial thing to get that computer up and running. After all, it had broken down 3 times in the past 3 weeks. So they really figure that within a short time, they'll be able to get things pretty much back to normal on the Mir space station. They still, however, have 6 pretty full days of work. They'll be unloading a lot of equipment, including patches for the damage that occurred back in June when they had a collision between the Progress and the Mir. They have to unload some water, other supplies, and then finally they have to undock. And every procedure has its own dangers. So they said that until that all is completed, about 6 days from now, they won't consider the mission a success until it's over. But at this point, both the rendezvous, by the way, using a new technique, slightly different technique, and the actual linking and coming through were very, very successful in their eyes. Right now, we're told that the cosmonauts and astronauts are about to go to sleep. They've all been up very late and working hard on this. And also, it's been a different time cycle for the Mir crew, which was put on a United States time schedule in order to prepare for this. So they'll say their hellos, give each other some hugs, and then eventually they'll all get some rest. Gene?
Jill, Mir has been up there in space a lot longer than anyone anticipated. How far into the future are Russian space officials looking? How long do they plan to keep it up and operating?
Well, they want to have it up and operating at least in this time before they can get the International Space Station up in about 2 years. So that was the whole plan. That what they wanted to do was continue with the Mir until the International Space Station gets up and going. The U.S. astronauts will continue a lot of scientific experiments that they will be performing. There's some very interesting ones. For example, the David Wolf, who is a new U.S. astronaut who will be replacing Michael Foale. He'll be performing more scientific experiments than any of the U.S. astronauts have so far. So and he'll be up there for about 4 months. So the program continues for a little bit, but basically it's to get it until the International Space Station comes online.
Jill Doherty at Russian Mission Control. Thanks so much. A few hours ago, the hatch has been opened, and as you can see in this live picture, the astronauts and cosmonauts are now mingling and speaking. Let's listen in for a second.
I don't see any fault messages on the fault zone. Okay.
Once again, the aftermath of a successful docking between Mir and the Space Shuttle Atlantis just a few hours ago. It's apparently an
read on the what parameter was tripped, and then that ought to help us just clear it up real quickly.
External ALMT 1.6 is the value. Sorry, 12.6. And steady.
21:58 Uhr mitteleuropäischer Sommerzeit, 400 Kilometer über der Erde. Die Raumfähre Atlantis dockt an die Raumstation Mir an. Und es klappt, nicht ganz so gut gelingt die Übertragung der Fernsehbilder. Kurz zuvor war noch ein erneuter Computerfehler gemeldet worden. Besorgte Gesichter gab es da im Raumfahrtzentrum. Einer von 3 Kanälen hatte falsche Signale zur Erde gesendet, doch hatte dies dann keinen Einfluss auf den präzisen Ablauf des Andockmanövers. Computerprobleme soll es künftig in der Mir nicht mehr geben. Die Atlantis hat einen neuen Zentralrechner russischer Bauart an Bord. Nicht nur deshalb war die Raumfähre hier beim Anflug von der Mir-Besatzung sehnsüchtig erwartet worden. Sie hat etwa 4 Tonnen Versorgungsgüter an Bord und unter der 7-köpfigen Besatzung ist der US-Astronaut David Wolf. Er soll seinen Landsmann Michael Foale in der pannengeplagten Raumstation ablösen. Wie sein Vorgänger soll auch Wolf 4 Monate im All bleiben.
Wir bleiben im All und gehen auf den Mars. Dort hat Sojourner, das kleine Mobil auf dem roten Planeten, einen kleinen Schritt getan, der aber ein großer Schritt für die Menschheit ist. Sojourner hat sich auf seine bislang größte Exkursion gemacht. Sage und schreibe 50 Meter entfernte sich das Fahrzeug von der Muttersonde Pathfinder.
Der gut 10 Kilo schwere Sojourner läuft und läuft und läuft. Und zwar schon erheblich länger, als die NASA es dem kleinen Roboter zugetraut hatte. Knapp 3 Monate lang erforscht die kleine Maschine bereits die Umgebung auf dem roten Planeten. Die Forscher waren aber nur von einer Woche Lebensdauer ausgegangen. Womöglich bringt Mars ja tatsächlich verbrauchte Energie sofort zurück. Und auch Pathfinder hat seine Betriebsdauer bereits um das 2,5-fache übertroffen. Die Sonde erstellt gerade das bislang beste und größte Panoramabild von der Marsoberfläche.
Ulrika Nilsson. Pinnacle is up next, but first a look at these headlines. A successful rendezvous in space as Shuttle Atlantis docked with Mir.
Contact and capture confirmed. Atlantis and Mir linked up once again.
The U.S. shuttle is dropping off astronaut David Wolf, who will replace Michael Foale. It is also delivering some much-needed technical equipment to repair the aging Russian space station. That gear includes a new computer to replace the one which has broken down 3 times in as many weeks.
The 10 crew members are resting from the labors of linking their 2 craft, some 400 kilometers aboard the surface of the planet. As CNN's John Holloman reports, the pressure was on. This docking was closely scrutinized by space officials in both countries.
They did it. The Shuttle Atlantis docked successfully with Space Station Mir about 2 minutes later than planned, but the docking looked perfect from the ground.
Contact and capture confirmed.
Mission managers in the U.S. and Russia were watching this docking with more than usual interest because Mir has had a series of onboard computer failures. And if the computer had failed during docking, the shuttle might not have been able to connect. After the successful hookup, Russian officials said the computer performed flawlessly. And there's already a new one on board Mir. It was the first thing passed through the hatch, and it'll be connected sometime this week to replace the failure-prone old one. The arrival ceremony was especially emotional for Mike Foale and Dave Wolf. Wolf will take over the U.S. seat on Mir for the next 4 months, and Foale will travel in the shuttle back to his wife and children on Earth. The 2 ships will stay connected for the next 6 days while tons of supplies are transferred. The space station needs a lot, and the shuttle has much of the material to bring Mir back up to normal operations. In addition to the computer, there's enough water to keep the crew alive for more than a month, and there are repair parts for the leak in Mir's Spectre module. That leak was not found in the spacewalk conducted by Commander Anatoly Soloviev and astronaut Mike Foale a few weeks back. John Holloman, CNN Atlanta.
The docking went off without a hitch.
7 crew members on the shuttle Atlantis, linking up flawlessly with the 3-man crew of the Mir space station. Their housewarming gift, a new computer to replace the old one that broke down 3 times in 3 weeks. At Russian Mission Control, a wave of applause and cheers as the hatch opened. It was touch and go right up until the last moment on whether NASA would give astronaut David Wolf the go-ahead to join the Mir crew for 4 months, replacing Michael Foale. The shuttle team dismissed the Mir's critics.
We think this is a great crew. The 10 of us, there was a lot of discussion about the risk. We are here to tell you, all 10 of us, that we think the benefit far outweighs the risk, and that's why we're here, and we're really enjoying it.
Russian and U.S. space officials showed a united front as well.
We're all enjoying an enormous sense of satisfaction with our joint effort, the spirit of partnership, understanding, and pitching in together.
Sergei Krikalev, the first Russian cosmonaut to fly the shuttle to Mir, watched the docking from Mission Control.
It was kind of nervous as usually every docking, but everything went well, everything was on schedule.
The shuttle brings tons of supplies, including fresh water, as well as repair gear needed to fix the damage from a collision in June. There are also scientific experiments for David Wolf to conduct, the most any U.S. astronaut has conducted aboard the Mir so far. Russian space officials say experiments, not repair work, will be the crew's main job. NASA officials say the 2 crews still have 6 busy days ahead of them, unloading equipment and supplies and finally undocking before they can declare this mission a success. Jill Doherty, CNN at Russian Mission Control outside of Moscow.
Das Flugleitzentrum in Moskau und die amerikanische Behörde NASA sprachen von einem Manöver wie im Bilderbuch. 2 Stunden nach der Ankopplung schwebten die 7 Besatzungsmitglieder der Atlantis durch einen Verbindungstunnel zur Mir. Sie übergaben einen neuen Zentralcomputer für die Raumstation.
Atlantis-Commander Weatherby hatte einen neuen russischen Zentralcomputer für die von zahlreichen Pannen geplagte Raumstation in den Händen. Die Atlantis-Crew, zu der auch ein Russe und ein Franzose gehören, wurde nach einer russischen Tradition mit Brot und Salz begrüßt.
Pünktlich um 21:58 Uhr mitteleuropäischer Zeit dockte die Atlantis an die Mir an. Eine Kopplung wie aus dem Bilderbuch. Beifall brauste auf im russischen Raumfahrtzentrum. Nach der Pannenserie der letzten Wochen Erleichterung auch bei den Verantwortlichen. Die Annäherung der US-Raumfähre hatte bereits am Nachmittag begonnen. Schließlich klappte alles wie am Schnürchen. Auch der Zentralcomputer der Mir, unumgänglich für eine stabile Lage der Raumstation, hielt durch. Der Kommandant der Atlantis-Mannschaft hatte sogar ein Krisenszenario erarbeitet, so dass die letzten Meter der Annäherung im Notfall auch ohne den Computer geklappt hätten. 1,5 Stunden später, die Luken öffnen sich. Die Atlantis hat Proviant an Bord und vor allem einen neuen Computer. In den nächsten Tagen wollen die nunmehr insgesamt 10 Astronauten und Kosmonauten ein umfangreiches wissenschaftliches Programm durchführen. David Wolf wird seinen Kollegen Michael Foale auf der Mir ablösen, der dann mit dem Shuttle zurückfliegt. Der Beifall nach dem Andocken war symbolisch. Ein Erfolg der Mission ist wichtig für die Fortsetzung der russisch-amerikanischen Zusammenarbeit. Im nächsten Jahr wollen die beiden Raumfahrtnationen die ersten Module für die internationale Raumstation Alpha ins All bringen, die im Jahr 2002 die Mir ablösen soll. Dirk Emmerich aus Moskau für NTV.
Die amerikanische Raumfähre Atlantis hat mit einem nahezu perfekten Manöver an die russische Raumstation Mir angedockt. Eine Viertelstunde vor Mitternacht öffnete sich die Luke der Mir und die 7-köpfige Shuttle-Crew schwebte über den Verbindungstunnel in die Raumstation. Wichtigstes Mitbringsel der Atlantis-Besatzung ist ein neuer Bordcomputer.
Immer wieder gab es an Bord der Mir kleinere Computerfehler. Kurz vor 22 Uhr rastete dann der Andockstutzen der Atlantis ein. Die Besatzung der Mir hatte schon die Luke des Verbindungstunnels geöffnet, als ein neues Problem auftrat. Zwischen der Atlantis und der Mir gab es einen erheblichen Druckunterschied. 20 Minuten später fielen sich die beiden Kommandanten in die Arme. Atlantis-Commander Weatherby übergab dem russischen Kommandanten Solovjew das Begrüßungsgeschenk, einen Ersatzcomputer, der den fehlerhaften Bordcomputer der Mir ersetzen soll. Die Atlantis und die Mir werden in den nächsten 6 Tagen gemeinsam um die Erde kreisen. Heute Nachmittag sollen die Versorgungsgüter von der Atlantis auf die Mir umgeladen werden.
Der große Moment. Atlantis-Kommandant James Weatherby und Mir-Kommandant Anatoly Solovjow umarmen sich 400 Kilometer über der Erde. Das wichtigste Mitbringsel der Amerikaner ist der neue Bordcomputer für die Mir, hergestellt in der Ukraine. Wenn er eingebaut ist, soll es keine Computerpannen mehr geben. In der vergangenen Nacht hatte fast alles wie am Schnürchen geklappt. Wie geplant näherte sich die US-Raumfähre langsam der Umlaufbahn der russischen Station. Dabei umkreisten beide mehrfach den Erdball. 2 Minuten vor Mitternacht Moskauer Zeit dockte Atlantis am Kristallmodul von Mir an. Das Andockverfahren, eine Mischung aus optischer Messung und Computersteuerung, hat die Europäische Raumfahrtagentur ESA entwickelt. Das einzige Problem dieser Nacht, der Luftdruckausgleich zwischen Mir und Atlantis dauerte 20 Minuten länger als geplant. Gut 2 Stunden nach dem Andocken saßen schließlich alle 10 Raumflieger in der Mir. Die Crew der Raumstation, Solovjow, Vinogradov und der Amerikaner Michael Foale und die Besucher von Atlantis, 5 Amerikaner, der Franzose Chrétien und der Russe Titov. William Reeves, NASA-Flugdirektor in Moskau, war begeistert. Es war ein tolles Docking, ein guter Start für eine gute Mission. Der Amerikaner David Wolf wird die nächsten 4 Monate in der Mir bleiben. Sein Kollege Michael Foale darf endlich nach Hause. Er hat einen Horrortrip hinter sich. Ende Juni der Zusammenstoß der Mir mit einem Raumtransporter, danach 5 Computerausfälle, Dauerprobleme mit dem Sauerstoff und täglich Reparaturen in der 11 Jahre alten Station der Russen.
Im Kontrollzentrum in Koroljow bei Moskau, mein Kollege Helge Fallbach. Helge, mit der Atlantis ist neue Technik zu Mir gebracht worden. Was heißt das jetzt? Wird alles gut?
Natürlich hoffen jetzt alle hier, dass mit dem neuen Computer auch die schlimmste Zeit vorbei ist. Aber ihr Schlosserwerkzeug können die Kosmonauten noch lange nicht aus der Hand legen. Sie müssen noch ein paar Mal aussteigen, um die Unfallschäden am Modul Spectre zu reparieren und an den Sonnensegeln. Und wenn dann noch Zeit ist, werden sie sich auch wieder mit wissenschaftlichen Experimenten beschäftigen.
Die NASA hat sich ja erst in allerletzter Minute entschieden, David Wolf auf die Mir zu schicken. Was bedeutet das für die weitere Zusammenarbeit mit den Russen?
Wahrscheinlich haben die Amerikaner die russische Raumfahrt vor dem Untergang gerettet. Die Mir kann jetzt wahrscheinlich weiterfliegen, bis die neue internationale Raumstation Alpha fertig ist. Für ihren Mut bekommt die NASA ungehinderten Zugang zu den Erfahrungen, die russische Kosmonauten in den letzten 40 Jahren gesammelt haben. Aber wenn es einen neuen schweren Unfall auf der Mir gibt, dann muss man damit rechnen, dass der US-Kongress den Geldhahn endgültig zudreht.
Der Druck auf das Unternehmen Mir wird also bleiben. Helge Fallbach aus Koroljow, vielen Dank.
Das Andockmanöver mit der amerikanischen Raumfähre Atlantis ist ohne Zwischenfälle gestern Abend über die Bühne gegangen. Die US-Raumfähre bringt unter anderem einen neuen Computer mit, Batterien, frisches Trinkwasser und David Wolf, der seinen Landsmann Michael Foale in der Mir ablösen soll. Katrin Eigendorf berichtet.
Es ist wohl nicht nur Platzmangel, sondern auch Erleichterung und Freude, die die 10 Kosmonauten auf der Mir ganz eng zusammenrücken lässt. Es hat viele Diskussionen über die Risiken gegeben, sagt Atlantis-Kommandant Weatherby. Doch hier zu sein, wiegt alle Risiken auf. Gegen 10 Uhr gestern Abend hatte sich die Atlantis mit 7 Astronauten an Bord der Mir auf Sichtweite angenähert. Das Shuttle ist 300 Meter von der Station entfernt. Da erhält der Kommandant grünes Licht fürs Andocken. Mit einer Geschwindigkeit von 3 Zentimetern pro Sekunde nähert sich die Atlantis der Mir. Um 21:58 Uhr dockt sie an. Bis zuletzt hat die Besatzung der Mir gebangt, dass der Bordcomputer, der die Station in ihrer Position hält, nicht wieder zusammenbricht. Um 23:45 Uhr öffnen die Amerikaner die Luke zur Mir und überreichen wenig später das wichtigste Geschenk von der Erde, einen neuen Bordcomputer, der den alten, störanfälligen ersetzen soll. Am 5. Oktober soll die Atlantis den Amerikaner Michael Foale zur Erde zurückbringen. Er wird abgelöst von seinem Landsmann David Wolf, der auf der Mir Silvester feiern wird.
Dann wollen wir der alten Mühle mal die Daumen drücken.
US-Raumfähre Atlantis hat problemlos an der russischen Raumstation Mir angedockt. Mit im Fluggepäck von US-Astronaut Wolf ist ein neuer Bordcomputer. Wolf soll seinen Kollegen Foale ablösen, der am Freitag mit der Atlantis-Crew auf die Erde zurückkehrt.
Man hatte wohl richtig Angst in der Flugleitzentrale in Koroljow. Buchstäblich bis zum Tag vorm Atlantis-Flug hatte der Zentralcomputer der Mir-Station immer wieder ausgesetzt. Andocken an Mir schien wie russisches Roulette, Chancen 1:1. Und da schwebte sie heran, die Atlantis, vorsichtig, 1,1 Meter pro Sekunde, immer wieder Halt machend, Schritt für Schritt. Würde es gut gehen? 23:58 Uhr russischer Zeit, die Erlösung, angedockt. In Russlands Leitzentrale fallen schwere Steine von allen Herzen. Ein Misserfolg hätte wohl das vorläufige Ende gemeinsamer russisch-amerikanischer Raumfahrt, auch das Versiegen amerikanischer Weltraumdollars für Russland bedeutet. Solche Szene hat die Mir-Station schon sehr lange nicht erlebt und sie hat sie wohl nötig. Wir alle hier denken, sagt Atlantis-Kommandant Weatherby, der Nutzen von Mir ist viel größer als das Risiko. Dieses Risiko könnte jetzt geringer werden. Das Erste, was nach den Menschen von Atlantis zu Mir kam, war ein anderer, brandneuer Zentralcomputer. Die Mir kann weiterfliegen.
In the next 4 months there, taking the place of astronaut Michael Foale. Wolf traveled to Mir on board the Shuttle Atlantis, which successfully docked with the space station Saturday. Atlantis has brought crucial parts for the aging Mir, including a much-needed replacement computer. The current computer has failed several times in recent months, triggering equipment shutdowns and sparking debate over the space station's safety. Some badly needed new equipment, including a computer and a new crew member, U.S. astronaut David Wolf. He's taking the place of astronaut Michael Foale, who ends a 4-month stay on Mir. Wolf arrived on the U.S. Shuttle Atlantis, which docked with Mir Saturday. The first task in the link-up involved lugging tons of supplies from Atlantis to Mir, including that new computer. It replaces Mir's current computer, which has failed several times in recent months.
U.S. astronaut David Wolf has all moved into the space station Mir. Wolf trades places with American Michael Foale, who's been aboard Mir for 4 months. Meantime, the process of moving 8,000 pounds of supplies aboard the aging spacecraft is expected to take several days. The Space Shuttle Atlantis docked with Mir on Saturday.
Astronaut David Wolf began his 4-month stint Saturday when the Shuttle Atlantis docked with the Russian space station. CNN's John Holloman spoke live with him Tuesday morning, and Wolf offered his first impressions of his new quarters.
First walked in, this place looked like one of those radio shops in New York City. There's so much gear everywhere, and it's just a playground of equipment and cameras and recorders. So I'm surprised how much can actually be here. It's a very alive, living place.
U.S.-Russian spacewalk is planned for Wednesday to retrieve some of the scientific experiments that are attached to the Mir's docking module. Atlantis is expected to separate from Mir by the end of the week and be back on Earth on Sunday.
Dave Wolf, you're looking very comfy up there. It's great to see you. Dave Wolf, this question just came to me from your mother. She says she's not convinced you're going to be able to celebrate the Jewish holidays correctly. Are you going to be able to do that? Did you bring what you need to do that?
I've got what I need coming up on the Progress in December. A friend of mine has sent it, so I'll be able to celebrate, and even without the items, we can do it in mind.
All right, that's great. Well, let me start then with Michael Foale. Mike, we have heard from other astronauts who have lived on the Mir that there have been various physical and mental effects that occur to your body and to your mind when the level of carbon dioxide aboard Mir gets higher than you would like. Have you noticed any physical degradation at any time during your mission, or any mental haziness or any mental problems at all while you've been on Mir?
The answer to that is no. And as far as carbon dioxide goes on Space Station Mir, I have not had any. I've noticed it almost every day while I have been tending my plants that I've been growing in the greenhouse. I'm aware of the level as far as the detectors are measuring it, and it has always been fairly low, well within the limits that have been set for the Space Station Mir habitability. So I'm not quite sure how that report arose. Occasionally the carbon dioxide goes higher when we have had to use a different carbon dioxide scrubbing system, but it has always been within the limits prescribed for the space station.
No kidding. I've seen your family. They are delightful, and they are looking forward to seeing you when you get back. If you will, pass the baton over to Dave Wolf. Dave, you trained, I think, for just about everything before you traveled to Mir. Have you been surprised by anything since you've been there?
When I first walked in, this place looked like one of those radio shops in New York City. There's so much gear everywhere, and it's just a playground of equipment and cameras and recorders. So I'm surprised how much can actually be here. It's a very alive, living place.
Yeah, Jim, hold on to the mic for a minute. I'd like you, if you will, to preview tomorrow's spacewalk for us. What's going to happen? What's the best that can happen out of that spacewalk?
Well, what they intend to do is to recover some experiments that were deployed on mission STS-86, I think. They are experiments that have been looking at the environment of space, a very harsh environment with cosmic rays and particles impacting different surfaces. They will bring those experiments back and we will analyze them down on the ground. It's similar to what we learned on the Long Duration Exposure Facility satellite several years ago. They also will deploy some Russian hardware that was sent up with us. They'll take it to the outside of the station that will help Anatoly and his folks to attempt to fix the leak on Spectre, and if that's successful, then they can recover the capabilities in there. It's one thing that we learned, our agency, from the Russians is to be flexible. The hardware was sent to us only a couple of weeks before launch, and I was very happy that we were able to incorporate it into the flight and bring the hardware up here. And we brought lots of different kinds of Russian hardware just in case that doesn't fix the problem. Some of the other equipment that the Russians have sent may help to fix the problem.
And Michael Foale, staying with you, as you know, the issue of mere safety has become an important issue in Congress right now, and Representative Sensenbrenner, Republican of Wisconsin, did not want David Wolf to be left behind when the shuttle leaves later this week. How do you answer those concerns, you who've been there through these very difficult 4 months?
Well, I have only positive things to say about those concerns. And what I mean is I appreciate the Senator's concern. I think the interest in safety, I think the very open discussion that the Senate and congressional interest has provoked at both NASA and in Russia has been very helpful. I think there has been progress as a result of all of this scrutiny by Congress. However, I always have felt safe here because behind us is a spacecraft called Soyuz. And the Soyuz, in any event, can allow us to leave the station in a real emergency. The problems of power management, too much condensation, the things that you've seen reported, they are real problems that we have to deal with, but they're not life-threatening. They can make your life a little uncomfortable, and if they went on for a long time, your life could become miserable. But we generally surpass these things and put them to the side.
And Michael Foale, give us a sense of some of the experiments or what you've learned from the collision, for example, that make these risks especially worth it.
Well, no one likes a collision, and I can't say I'll ever choose to do that one again. However, the whole point in most big endeavors, and this is a great endeavor between our countries, Russia and America, in doing this international program, you are going to have accidents. And the strength in this program is how you overcome the unexpected problems, not in how you execute all the things that you planned for. And I think the way we're overcoming this is really what we should be proud of.
And Commander, you've brought a whole new computer or the parts to make a new computer for Mir. Is that right?
That's true, and here it is right here. Mike is going to lift it up and show it. It is a new guidance control computer for the Mir, which hopefully will help keep their attitude without losing their attitude.
David Wolf, tell me what your goals are for the next months. What key experiments are you going to be working on?
First order of business is to get the laboratory in full working order. We're well along the way. I wish you could see it. It's a wonderful microgravity laboratory. We're working with three-dimensional tissue cultures the last few days, where we are able to grow three-dimensional tissues which behave, will help us learn the principles for tissue engineering and are useful for our cancer research programs, and a whole slew of other experiments.
Dear friends, we are happy to greet you from on board the Mir orbital complex and the docked Atlantis shuttle to Soon, the people of Earth will celebrate the 40th anniversary of the first artificial Earth specialist. Right now we have on board a large crew. We have Commander Jim Weatherby, who's the commander of the Atlantis crew, who brought his craft very beautifully and very well docked with us in the manual mode. I'd also like to say a few words. I greet you with the holiday. I saw Sputnik when I was small. I am therefore very happy to have this opportunity. These are great days that must excite everyone. 40 years ago, we had a new word, Sputnik. We today call it an artificial Earth satellite, and every person could hear the signals from space, these short radio beeps, but they meant very much for each person on Earth. It opened a new era, and undoubtedly all people who participated in this project can be proud. And together with them, we are happy that the great epoch of space has begun starting on that day. Thanks to that small Sputnik, today we have large volumes inhabited by astronauts and cosmonauts. We have craft such as Atlantis, and today we wish to greet all the people who started this great enterprise, health, happiness, great success. We know that the labor of many people who work on something remains unnoticed. But we, astronauts and cosmonauts, understand this very well, and we are today talking to these people. A great thanks to them for their great labor that was the basis of our work and which would not be possible otherwise. Thank you very much. Health to you, happiness to you personally, to your families, and great successes to our common cause, the exploration of space.
NASA and Russian spacewalkers have stepped outside the shuttle Atlantis, and we'll get a live update on their spacewalk next.
Finally.
High above the Earth, a Russian cosmonaut and a U.S. astronaut are taking an unprecedented spacewalk. The two men are in the middle of this 5-hour adventure of sorts. And CNN's John Holloman joins us from the CNN Center in Atlanta, where you've been monitoring all this, John. There were problems at the beginning.
Yes, there were, Sonia. Let's go to the live pictures coming in from space because we don't know how long we're going to have them. This is cosmonaut Vladimir Titov, who is folding up one of 4 environmental payload panels that has been attached outside the Mir space station for about a year. 2 of the 4 suitcases have been recovered and stowed down in the shuttle's cargo bay. The first 2 were detached, folded up, and then taken down into the shuttle by astronaut Scott Parazynski, who had about a 30-minute problem at the beginning of this spacewalk. He came outside, and the procedure for doing this, I mean, the most dangerous thing that could happen to you out in space would be you got disconnected from the shuttle. So there's a tether wire with a tether reel, and if you look closely at this picture, you'll see the tether wire is just going helter-skelter through space. The problem there is caused by the fact that the tether reel retraction unit failed to retract. So Parazynski was sitting in a somewhat dangerous situation for a matter of about 30 minutes until he figured out he needed to get rid of that tether wire and the tether reel retraction unit that it was attached to on his belt. He shoved those things back into the shuttle's airlock. Then he got another tether reel that worked better than the first one and continued to work on the spacewalk. I've got a model here, and I can show you on the model where the spacewalk is going on. This is the connecting tunnel where the shuttle and the Mir space station are connected. Immediately on top of it, if this were real scale, at about this point, would be that red docking tunnel where these 4 suitcase-type payloads were attached to the tunnel. 2 of them have been removed. The cosmonaut, working for the first time by a cosmonaut in an American spacesuit, is removing the 3rd one now. There's 1 more to go after that. Then they'll come back here in the payload bay of the shuttle, and they'll take a solar panel cap device manufactured in Russia. That device will be taken and attached to the outside of the Mir space station so that it can be used, if it's determined that that's the right thing to do, to stop the leak in Mir's Spectre module. Sonia, you'll remember about precisely the 25th of June, a Russian supply ship bashed into the Mir space station, creating a great deal of damage to one of the 4 solar panels on the Spectre module, and at the same time causing a leak in Spectre, which almost killed everybody. And that module has been sealed off ever since, and what's going on there now is that they think the leak is at the point where the solar panel connects to the Spectre. If that is the case, they will go out on a later spacewalk, disconnect the broken solar panel, and then put this solar panel cap, this new piece that's now in the shuttle, that will soon be attached to Mir, out there in order to seal this off. And we're told that the shuttle and Mir combination is now flying over Mongolia. We know it is very dark there, and we also know that the sun will be coming up, and we'll have more pictures, we are told, in about 2 minutes. But at any rate, Sonia, that's the word from here right now. We'll keep monitoring this. Nobody's been in any danger. That tether problem at the beginning was sort of made for some tension out there in space as well as in mission controls and in the pit of this stomach. And but they've solved it, and it looks like things are going swimmingly now. Maybe by the time this is over, they'll also get to test a new backpack, jetpack, to rescue them in case of future tether problems. But the spacewalk scheduled for 5 hours. They've been out about 2 now, so they've got 3 hours to go.
John Holliman, thanks. And of course, we'll be monitoring the spacewalk for the next 3 hours.
CNN's John Holliman has been following the event since it began about 2.5 hours ago. He joins us now from CNN Center in Atlanta to tell us more. John?
Hillary, this spacewalk was almost aborted at the beginning. There was a 30-minute delay in getting it started because one of the tethers that astronaut Scott Parazynski is using to hold himself to the space shuttle so he doesn't float off into space went wild. You can see the tether wire. It's the white, very thin piece of wire that's visible in all of these still photographs here. And the wire could have become entangled in his spacesuit and made this a very bad day for Parazynski. That tether and the tether reel which failed was taken off of Parazynski, shoved back into the airlock. He went to a spare tether, which is working just fine at this moment. Let me show you on our shuttle model just where the pictures that are coming down from space right now are coming from. Back here on the back of the model, and let me turn it a little bit more to the camera, is the SpaceAb module, where all the supplies that have been transferred to Mir were located. There's a TV camera right back here in this corner, the little gold camera. It is shooting a picture this way. The spacewalk is taking place right here on the docking tunnel that connects the shuttle to Mir. Now let me take you live to space, and you can see the view from that camera as it looks out over the front of the space shuttle, and you can see planet Earth spinning beneath, and you can see, if you look just behind the live word on your TV screen, you can see a wire. That's the tether wire. The picture is now changed to inside the cargo bay of the shuttle, where the astronaut and the cosmonauts, cosmonaut Vladimir Titov, the man who's using the United States spacesuit for the first time in history on a spacewalk, is on the left of your screen. Scott Parazynski is on the right of your screen. In Parazynski's hand, just disappearing off the right side of your screen in the upper corner now, is a box that looks somewhat like a suitcase. That box is one of the 4 Mir environmental experimental payloads that have been removed from the side of the Mir space station, and those boxes are now being folded up and mounted inside the shuttle cargo bay for the return to Earth. When the first of these boxes was picked up by the astronaut and cosmonaut, it was noted by Parazynski that a lot of micrometeoroids had banged in to a substance inside that box that's sort of like flypaper here on Earth. The micrometeoroid stuck there, and people on the ground are going to be examining it to see what it's made of and to see why it came past Mir at a rate of about 17,000 miles an hour sometime in the past 8 or 9 months. So the astronaut and cosmonaut working very well together. During the problem with Parazynski's tether, Titov, the cosmonaut, was able to help him get untangled from it and was able to help him get that tether back into the airlock so that it wouldn't be a danger. You can see now on the left side of your screen, Parazynski is holding the suitcase-type box. If you look just above the word spacewalk on your screen right now, you can see the mounting brackets where these suitcase-type containers are to be located. They're going to ride back inside the shuttle's cargo bay when the shuttle lands on Earth on the 5th of this month, 4 days from now. Then those suitcase-type boxes will be removed and examined by scientists on the ground to determine, A, what these micrometeoroids look like, and B, how materials that are planned to be used on the new International Space Station hold up under actual conditions of being out in space, traveling around the Earth. If some of these samples are badly damaged, they'll be discarded and won't be used on the International Station. If some of them have survived the past many months intact, they probably will be used on the new International Station. Meanwhile, up in the Mir space station itself, which is about 100 feet above where these two men are working in the current orientation of your picture, a new onboard guidance computer has been installed. And that guidance computer replaces the one that has failed 3 times in the past 3 weeks, putting Mir out of control. While we can hear the astronauts and cosmonauts talking, let's listen in.
You'll be in trouble.
Vladimir Titov there, joking with Scott Parazynski about the potential that he might get into trouble if he lost the suitcase. We hope he won't lose it, and we'll go ahead and mount it into place there. Coming up in the next 2.5 hours, after the final suitcase is latched into place, the two men will do 2 more very important things. One is extraordinarily important to the future health and survival of the Mir space station. You'll remember back on June 25th, there was an accident on Mir where a cargo ship plowed into one of the space station's solar panels, and ground managers believe that at the point of impact there might have been a leak created which caused one of Mir's modules, the Spectre module, to decompress. And there is a repair piece for the leak if that is where it is located. So far, the actual leak hasn't been seen by anybody, but the place where the solar panel connects to Mir is impossible to see from an outside spacewalking astronaut. So what ground-based managers are considering doing now is disconnecting that solar panel. It's too beat up to be used anymore anyway, tossing it off into space, and if the leak is located at the connection point there, taking this new piece, a 120-pound cover for the solar panel connection, bolting it to the side of the Russian space station in a future spacewalk, and if it works, and if that is where the leak is located, then the Spectre could be at least partially repressurized, though it's unlikely that an American astronaut would live there again. We're now looking at the picture from a camera at the front of the shuttle's cargo bay. That's where the rest of the shuttle astronauts are working. Let's listen now.
Scott Parazynski almost eyeball to eyeball with the payload bay camera in front of the orbiter docking system, looking aft toward the rear of Atlantis' cargo bay, as he and Vladimir Titov complete the stowage of the 3rd of 4 Mir environmental effects payloads removed from the docking module on the Mir space station.
That was the voice of NASA commentator Rob Navius.
Looking good, yeah, it's good. We're coming along. Yes, 2 feet to the camera from NIP. Okay. Yes, okay. You will continue moving like you move right now. Just, this is your leg right now to the, almost to the hedge.
The Russians and the Americans are cooperating extraordinarily well in these joint Mir shuttle missions, and you could hear cosmonaut Titov, a veteran of 4 spacewalks, counting this one, talking to Parazynski, a man with much less experience outside, suggesting how he might walk more effectively to get that box over to the point where it needs to be attached to the side of the shuttle.
Be careful with safety teaser. Yes, okay.
The reason that spacewalks are always conducted with two people in the American and the Russian space programs is that one person can be watching the person who is doing the actual work. Titov is the watcher at this moment, and he just warned Parazynski not to get caught in the replacement tether wire that is connecting him to the shuttle.
I have to reach my tether here again.
That's the voice of Parazynski, but who you see on the screen is Titov.
This is my, right now.
There's
be careful. Okay.
Titov urging Parazynski to be careful.
Slow. It's okay, moving good, moving good. Yes, yes. Right now rotate to the left side. Okay. Rotate.
Titov can see the tether wire that's connecting Parazynski to the shuttle. There's the airlock that two of them walked out of a little while ago.
Yes, it's here. I will help you. I will hold the meat and... Okay.
Titov on the left is now grabbing the suitcase, which the NASA acronym is MEEP, for Mir Environmental Effects Payload, while Parazynski gets himself in position to lock it onto the side of the shuttle's cargo bay. People who do a lot of spacewalks point out that the good thing about weightlessness is that you don't weigh anything. The bad thing about weightlessness is that you float off all the time. Parazynski has just disconnected one of his tether wires, and he's now moving it over to another point. If you look at the upper right-hand corner of your screen, you can see where the tether hook is being latched to a handrail out in the shuttle's cargo bay. Each of the spacewalkers has two tether wires, one to keep you in place while you move the other one to a better position.
Where you plan? It is open right now. Yeah. Where you plan to stay? Stay right here. I'm going to use my BRT.
Coming up for them, one more suitcase removal and storage procedure, which will probably be conducted over the next 30 or 40 minutes. When that is done, they'll try to take the repair part for Mir's solar panel cover and attach it to the outside of the Mir station. And then if there's time before they run out of consumables, basically oxygen in those spacesuits, they will test the backpacks that you see facing the camera on your screen right now, certainly on Parazynski's suit. And that backpack will be tested to see how a new hand controller operates it, so that in case an astronaut became detached in some future spacewalk, he'd be able to jet power himself back to the shuttle or the space station. We'll continue to watch this. If things get more dangerous or more dicey, we'll rush back here. Otherwise, we'll just keep you posted from time to time. Hillary?
Thanks very much, John. And I know we will keep coming back to you through the whole spacewalk. And of course, John Holloman will join us with the closing minutes or closing time of the Mir spacewalk. Also,
You need to go on top of me, right? You can cross over.
On the left side of your picture, Vladimir Titov.
A Russian-American spacewalk nearing an end outside Shuttle Atlantis. CNN's John Holloman joins us now from Atlanta to give us the latest. John.
Bernie, the astronaut and cosmonaut have been outside for 4 hours and 43 minutes of a 5-hour spacewalk, and they're winding it up. Let's go live to space. We'll go out into the cargo bay of Space Shuttle Atlantis, and let's see. What you can see right now is the airlock hatch. Vladimir Titov, the Russian cosmonaut, who played a major role in helping the American astronaut do a safe and successful spacewalk today, is down inside that hatch. Picture's not great because they're in darkness. The shuttle is flying over a darkened part of the planet, but you can sort of see up at the top of your screen, right in this area, you can see Scott Parazynski, the American astronaut's outline as he pushes his Russian colleague down into the airlock hatch. Not a lot of room in there, particularly at the end of a spacewalk where some other equipment. You can see the bottoms of the cosmonaut's feet now as he is pushing himself down inside. They want to get this thing over in the next 16 minutes so that there'll be plenty of air supplies and other things for these guys. And they are both extremely tired at this point. Early in the spacewalk, they had a problem. As soon as they had come outside, one of the shuttle tether reels that the astronauts wear on their spacewalks to keep them connected to the shuttle went wild. You can probably see on the left side of your screen all this wire that could have tangled up Parazynski's legs. There it is. The tether reel is supposed to be sort of like a tape measure where the stuff will always come back inside when you get closer. It failed to do that, and this could have been dangerous. The cosmonaut kept telling the astronaut what to do to keep from getting entangled in all that wire. Took about 30 minutes to figure out what to do. They ditched that tether, took it off from where it was connected to the suit and to the shuttle and threw it back inside the airlock hatch, brought out a spare and continued the spacewalk. The goals of this thing were basically threefold. First thing they wanted to do was to remove 4 suitcase-sized pieces of equipment that NASA astronauts had put outside Mir back last year to test things. They've got one thing that is a suitcase that's filled with the space-age equivalent of flypaper, and it was flying outside Mir to catch space debris as it flew past Mir. It caught a lot, micrometeoroids and little chips of paint and things like that are going to be examined by scientists on the ground. And the other suitcases had samples of things like paint for the new space station and the metal material that might be used for the new space station, even some window glass to see how it is going to react to long-time exposure to life in space. So those, taking those 4 suitcases, closing them up and mounting them down in the bottom of the shuttle's cargo bay, first order of business today. I'm going to move my shuttle model out of the way. That probably is distracting to our viewers. After that, they had a spare repair part for the Mir space station, which they brought into space. Once again, we're looking at the live pictures, and they took this repair part for Mir out of the shuttle's cargo bay and attached it to the side of the space station. Bertie, you'll remember back at the end of June, there was a wreck on Mir where a cargo ship bashed into the side of it, broke a solar panel, and caused the Spectre module, which is the American laboratory and apartment, to spring a leak. So it's been out of commission ever since then. They think maybe the leak is at the point where the broken solar panel hooks on to the Mir space station. And this repair part will allow them to seal that leak if that is in fact where it is. They're also supposed to test jet backpacks that are attached to their spacesuits. NASA told us they were supposed to be testing those backpacks right now, but it's certainly, that's not what they're doing. They're climbing back into the airlock and getting back on board. So we're not sure whether those backpacks were tested at a time that we couldn't see them or not. But they certainly did most of what they went outside to do today. They're going to stay attached to Mir until the 5th of October, or rather, I beg your pardon, until Friday when they detach, and then they'll come back home on the 5th of October at the end of a 10-day mission that has been filled with news. Bernie?
Our man John Holloman on the ground watching space. Thank you.
See you.
Judy, see you later.
Wladimir Titov und der amerikanische Astronaut Scott Parazynski haben ihren Weltraumspaziergang nach 5 Stunden erfolgreich beendet. Kurz nach Mitternacht kehrten sie in die Raumstation Mir zurück. Sie hatten zunächst 4 wissenschaftliche Instrumente von der Außenhülle geholt. Danach brachten sie am Andock-Modul der Mir eine Verschlusskappe an. Die Kappe soll später als Abdeckung dienen, falls der beschädigte Sonnenkollektor entfernt werden muss.
Zuerst bauten sie 4 koffergroße Messgeräte von der Mir ab und verstauten sie im Laderaum der Raumfähre Atlantis. Dann befestigten die Astronauten eine 80 cm große Abdichtung am beschädigten Spectre-Modul. In den nächsten Tagen wollen sie mit dieser Vorrichtung das Leck in der Außenhaut des Moduls schließen. An Bord der Mir installierten unterdessen die anderen Kosmonauten den neuen Zentralcomputer.
Mission accomplished. A Russian cosmonaut and a US astronaut have taken a walk outside the space station Mir. All ended well, but as CNN's John Holloman reports, there were some complications.
The spacewalk to remove NASA equipment from the side of the Mir space station and attach a repair part to Mir was successful, but not without some problems. Shortly after astronaut Scott Parazynski got outside and began to check his safety tether wire, he found it was more of a problem than a help. The tether reel, which is supposed to keep the wire tight at all times, failed. And soon, Parazynski was surrounded by wire. His spacewalking partner, Vladimir Titov, helped keep Parazynski out of danger while the tether flapped dangerously in space. After some discussion with the ground, it was decided to remove the tether and stow it back inside the shuttle. Parazynski got a spare and used it to complete the walk. The main goal was to remove 4 suitcase-sized NASA experimental packages attached to Mir since last year. 2 captured space debris. The other 2 tested paints and other materials developed for the new International Space Station. When these packages are returned to the ground, they'll be examined by scientists to see what exposure to space does to various materials. When the retrieval was complete, the spacewalkers pulled a Mir repair part out of the shuttle and attached it to the side of the space station docking tunnel. The part is a solar panel cover. If it's determined the Mir Spectra module is leaking at the point where a damaged solar panel is connected, then this cover will seal the leak. Finally, the spacewalkers tested the new controllers for their emergency backpacks, spacesuit attachments that would allow them to fly to safety if they became disconnected from the shuttle during a walk. At the end, Parazinski took a break to look at the Earth spinning peacefully below.
Just taking it all in, the Shuttle Mir complex all together here, flying in space, and then silhouetted over a beautiful home planet. It's just incredible. Never seen anything so beautiful.
John Holloman, CNN Atlanta.
Scientists of the U.S. Space Agency, NASA, say the battery of the Mars Pathfinder may be running down. After 3 days of communications problems with the spacecraft, the scientists managed to re-establish contact on Tuesday night using the lander's auxiliary transmitter. Pathfinder has been on Mars nearly 3 months. Since then, it's sent images, soil analyses, and other scientific data back to Earth.
The Pentagon says its plan to fire its most powerful laser at a military satellite is purely defensive research.
The purpose of the experiment is to collect data that will help us improve computer models used in planning protection measures for U.S. satellite systems.
Sometime over the next few days, the multi-megawatt Miracle laser will be fired from its base in White Sands, New Mexico for less than a second at an Air Force satellite nearing the end of its useful life. That will be followed by a longer blast for about 10 seconds. The idea is not to blow up the satellite, but to see whether it's disabled in any way.
It doesn't destroy the satellite, doesn't create any debris, and it does not pose any risk to other satellites.
The United States has tested powerful lasers in the past, using them to destroy targets on the ground, and has even fired lasers at satellites in space, but never one this powerful. In recent years, the U.S. military has become increasingly dependent on satellites for communication, intelligence gathering, and navigation. So the ability to protect U.S. satellites while blinding the enemies is seen as crucial in future wars. But critics in Congress warn the U.S. test could backfire, sparking an arms race in anti-satellite weaponry that would leave the United States with the most to lose. Several senators and congressmen have written President Clinton, urging the test be canceled or at least delayed. The Pentagon insists its laser test is not opening the door to a new generation of space weapons and argues it violates no international law or domestic policy. Privately, the military concedes that with more and more other countries and even private companies launching spy satellites, a weapon that could neutralize them would come in very handy. Jamie McIntyre, CNN, The Pentagon.